Welcome, everybody, to episode 345 of Sports on the Hill podcast. It's an Olympic special part two. We are joined in the co host spot with Davey. Davey is eating a sandwich live on Twitch. We're also joined by two parts of our hockey roundtable, usually. We got C4, Cheryl Ann Forrester, and Gil of the Blue Liner on point. And no fancy hat from Gil this week. But it's funny because we had Anna on last week and we had Janaea on last week. So between both podcasts, we've had all four of the regulars on that show. We're also going to be joined by Casey later on, who's a friend of both the Power Play Point podcast and Sports on the Hill podcast. So we'll be bringing him on later for the wrestling segment, which will also feature Champ in addition. I want to thank everybody for joining in live on Twitch. We got yeah, oh thank you. Uh Interesting. I have a bot already on Kick, which is good. It means that people are paying attention to us. So appreciate the offer to get me huge on Kick. I think we'll try to do it organically for now, but appreciate that. We do have Restream bot, so it lets me know when people are chatting across other platforms. We got Pines in chat, SFX Pines. Welcome on in. We also have Ginger Dory in, who just resubscribed for 21 months. So I really appreciate that. And thank you for noticing my Foo Fighters shirt. It was a July 4th celebration, so I thought, which is obviously we're celebrating Team USA, and so I thought nothing more American than Foo Fighters on July 4th, right? So anyway, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Yeah, Davey, what are you eating? That Pines was asking the very important question. It's not a sandwich today. So what do we got? You've been
Oh yeah,
making.
I got some. This is pork vermicelli from a
Ooh,
Vietnamese restaurant. This is great. This is really great.
Nice. That's really
I'm
good.
enjoying this.
it does sound yummy.
I had a shrimp oil packet, and if you want to check that out, it's on my Instagram page and on my Facebook page. But Liz made them on the grill with shrimp and corn and potatoes and sausage with obviously Old Bay since we're from Maryland, and she actually stuck a lemon in it this time, so it's got some nice brightness to it. So it was very good. And Tavy is eating takeout.
And I have a cat trying to bite my arm. This one is this other evil little bit. This is Sebastian. This is the
That's the
other.
cat you do so
The other
far.
one, it's a different cat. She's
This
literally
is
playing
two of
cats out
this.
there.
This is two of five. The other three, I'm not sure where they are.
Oh, he's very cute. I like him a lot. So I don't have any stream animals with me right this second, but
Yeah,
they,
Sebastian, and there they go. He just dive bombed him from the. Yeah, those two are like WWE, DJ and Sebastian. It's like constant WWE in my house with those
and
two.
you speaking of WWE, you said you're going to go to SmackDown
I
next week,
am going
right?
to SmackDown next Friday. My friend Jackie, who works at the Irish Channel, got tickets and invited Marcus and I to go along with her.
Where is SmackDown? Is it in
Capital One.
one? Oh, that's always good. Yeah,
It's at Capital One.
that's
So it's going to
awesome.
be interesting. I've never been to a live one. So this is,
Yeah, no, that'd be kind of cool. And it's actually it's in a couple weeks you said, right? So there's some pretty big stories.
it's the 23rd. So a week. Yeah, next week, next Friday.
That would be awesome. Yeah, it's funny because my wife hates wrestling but Champ has got me so excited about wrestling over these last couple of years, so I'm now like watching it in secret. But I've really been enjoying this week's Raw and SmackDown. We're actually going to discuss well, it's last week's Raw since it is Monday, and then SmackDown.
Yeah,
We're actually going to discuss at the very end of the show. We're going to have Champ on, and I'll actually be able to have a real
which
conversation
reminds
with
me.
him instead of him just telling me stuff. And so that'll be fun at the end. We're going to also bring in Casey to talk Olympic wrestling with Champ as well. We'll also talk a little bit of Commanders at the very end and some other DC sports topics. But before that, we do have C4, Gil, and Davey here to talk Olympics. So much exciting news that has happened over the last week. And unlike the previous week where I was super busy and I didn't get to see a whole lot of it, and I had you guys explain a lot of it. I almost have the opposite feeling right now. I feel like I watched too much Olympics last week, and I don't even know if I remember it all. But there's so many great topics to talk about, and I know we're gonna go through C4's thoughts first, and then Gil's favorite topics to talk about. We're also gonna get thoughts from Davey all along, and any other additional ones he wants to, and then C4 can jump off. We'll replace her with DC's People's Champ. We'll get some of his other events that he wanted to talk about. And then we will keep on rotating people, bring Casey in at the end, and Gil and Davey will swap out. So it'll be kind of a cool rotating roundtable as we go through the show tonight. We may even have some other special guests. There's a couple of maybes on the docket too that we might bring in as well. So lots of fun stuff. Thank you everyone again for joining in live on Twitch or on Facebook or Kick. We appreciate everyone for tuning in, or on YouTube Live. So we're on all the platforms. I was telling the group here, unfortunately, Anchor, aka Spotify for Podcasts, got rid of the intro feature. So if you're hearing this audio and they're like, there was no intro, it wasn't an accident. It's just we're going to have to do things a little bit differently going forward in the fall. So sorry for the no intro today. We'll try to fix that for when we come back the week after Labor Day. So Labor Day will have continue our off. This will be the last show until the week after Labor Day, which will recap the first week of the NFL season, which is crazy that it's so close. So yeah, let's go through the different sports. I know that C4 wasn't on last week and wanted to talk a little bit about some of the swimming. We were able to win 28 total medals in swimming, including 8 gold, 13 silver, and 7 bronze. Obviously, Katie Ledecky was on top of her game, winning the 800, 1500 again.
Yeah, what was it? The 1500, the
Yeah,
800. It wasn't even close.
yeah,
I think it was the 800. It wasn't even close.
yeah. I think both of them weren't close,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's basically there's 2 names, Katie Ledecky and Leon Marchand.
Yeah,
That kid was so much fun to watch.
yeah. He was awesome. There was so many.
It took me a minute to get over the last name, but
Right.
those of you who watch hockey understand that reference.
Anna made
Anna had the same problem last week.
Yeah, so that's fun.
I tell you what, he was something to watch. He's gonna be someone to watch in the next over the coming years. He's gonna be they're saying he's gonna be the next Michael Phelps. It's
Right.
possible. It is. I'll say it's possible.
Yeah, we'll see. We have Kate Douglas also the 200-meter breaststroke.
Yeah.
And we won the women's 4x100 meter medley relay. And we also won the men's 1500 freestyle, the men's 4x100 freestyle relay, and the mixed 4x100 medley relay. So I was very impressed, with our haul there, and it was just a really exciting time in the pool. I'm happy
the women set an Olympic record, I believe.
That's possible.
I think. I know they did really, really well.
I'm happy we're really good at swimming because the diving is all wrapped up by China, right?
China. Yeah, I did watch some of the diving. I don't pay as much attention to it. I don't follow it very closely. But it's just fun to watch.
I know a weird amount of about diving. Like sometimes when I watch it and I know all these things, I'm like, why do I know all of this, right? But like it's just one of those weird things that you get to become experts watching these things once every years, and then you forget 100% about it, but then it comes back to you. You're like, oh right, you need to do a twist, and this is what's going to happen, and point deductions, like it all floods right back to you. So it's kind of cool. One thing I hadn't realized, and this is why I kind of love Facebook in some ways, compared to some of the other platforms, is memories. This week on my memories, it came up that I had covered the Olympics 8 years ago on this week, which I had kind of thought in my mind that the one we did 3 years ago was the first Summer Olympics that we did. But now I am realizing that this is actually the 3rd summer. And I believe we had 2 Winter Olympics in that time. So this is the 5th Olympics we've been able to cover on this podcast. It's kind of cool when you look back on it that way. And you kind of forget some of the stuff that you do when you do it, for quite some time. But I love being able to document these moments, and this really, I felt maybe this is recency bias, but for me, this was my favorite Olympics that I've gotten to cover, and one of my favorite Olympics I've gotten to watch, just because of
Yeah.
the variety of sports that I got into, and I just thought the storylines were just so
Yeah.
compelling, both from the United States perspective, but from the global perspective as well.
Mhm.
And I just
So
was
many
quite,
local athletes, a lot
I
of
know,
athletes from Maryland. It's crazy.
two runners are from our rival high school to my school that won
Hmm.
Olympic gold.
Quincy, yeah, the kid Quincy,
Right.
16 years old, won a gold
16
medal in the
years
four
old.
by
Yeah.
four.
And then I don't even know how old that girl is. I'm trying to remember her name.
Um,
Hold on, I have it right here. But
what was her name? We
hold
were talking about
on.
it earlier in the chat.
Yeah, Masai Russell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't even know how old she is. Is she? It's crazy that he's going to be a junior this year. Can you imagine showing up? What did you do on your summer break? Just have a silver
I went to
medal,
Paris and ran the four by ran in the
have a gold medal
yeah,
around
and
your
the
neck, stuff like. I
yeah,
mean, like,
and he got a gold medal because he ran the qualifying, even though they had to kind of come from behind,
okay,
and
so
he wasn't even happy with his time, but
yeah, she's older. I forgot that she is part of the Kentucky Wildcats, but she did like go to Bullis, and she was a class of 2022, which is wild to me. So,
yeah.
I didn't expect that they would produce Olympians. So, that's something I did not have on my bingo card. But there's so many in the DMV. I mean, I feel like Kevin Durant kind of gets forgotten about, with
Mhm.
all the talk about, LeBron and, Steph bailing them out. But
Right.
because, he's a DMV native as well, and now he owns the record for most Olympic golds for a U.S. men's basketball player. And
Yep.
so, good on him for sticking through it. Um, Davey, any of the swimming stuff you want to talk about before we switch gears?
Swimming?
Yeah,
Oh
no, it's
yeah.
we went through like a million
Yeah,
sports. That's where we were.
yeah, swimming was epic. It was pretty good. Yeah, what can you say about Ledecky? I mean, just the goat of distance events.
Hmm.
It's great.
Well, she's the
Um,
most decorated female Olympian now with what, 14 medals?
and there's an outside chance she might even do it again in LA, which is kind of
Hmm.
amazing to think about. Like, she might be
Didn't she
pretty.
like take 2 years off or something, and then just
Yeah.
decided like a couple of years ago, "Oh, I'll just try it again." So
Yeah,
imagine
she
if she
did.
does that again. What I find so incredible is some of these athletes just come into these sports so late in life, right? You always hear about the ones that obviously did it since they were 2 years old, and this is what they were destined to do, and blah blah blah. But there was a cyclist who won gold for us, who one day just wanted to do some exercise and started cycling in the morning, and this was 7 years ago, right? And then a couple of years back, she's like, maybe I'll actually train to do the Olympics. And then she did. And now she's a gold medalist. And I'm like,
It's
what?
amazing, isn't it?
Like in your 20s or 30s to just make that decision, that's just
What
wild.
about that Turkish shooter, man? Just
Yeah. Oh my God. He's like one of my favorite guys
he's
in this
like,
whole thing.
I'm on my way to did you see the whole AI thing where he was talking about he's going to the grocery store and he happened to see there was a shooting competition, so he stopped in to shoot.
Yeah. I believe it. He just so nonchalant with that, and just it's so cool to watch all these just great stories that just come out of nowhere. I just I don't know how. I mean, first of all, to be an Olympian is incredible, but just to
Hmm.
be able to decide these things. I mean, there's another story that I read, and this person didn't medal, but Tony Hawk is obviously a legendary skateboarder, and he always wanted to do something like this, but obviously they brought it too late for him. But one of his friends, a 50-year-old guy that he had known since the beginning, actually competed in this Olympics. I'm
I
like,
heard about that. Yeah.
I was like, that's crazy. Like, he didn't obviously medal or anything, but just to have that opportunity. And I think of the Olympics as this great equalizer. There's people of all these different ages that are competing against each other. And it's really cool to see some of these young people, these 16, 14, 15-year-old people go against these, 30, 40-year-old. It creates this really interesting dynamic. I like Wembley going against LeBron, like, you
Hmm.
think about, yeah, I don't know. It's just, he's not even like some of these guys aren't even like 21, right? You know, and LeBron's been doing this for over 20 years, and you know,
Right.
it's pretty crazy to think about. I think it's kind of cool that we had a wizard that was on that French team. So and he had
Oh yeah.
Kokio Bali, is that right? Something like that.
Something like that.
So that's kind of cool. He got a silver medal, which is pretty awesome. And the one of the coaches for the women's basketball team is actually the GM for the Mystics.
No
Um,
kidding.
I didn't, know that, but so that's pretty cool too. Um, uh, so anyway, I'll let you pick the next sport that we talk about. C4. So what do you want to chat about next?
Well, I think gymnastics was covered pretty well. I mean, we all know Simone Biles did Simone Biles things, and um, the big thing now is Jordan Childs, the whole thing with her where she thought she finished fifth, and the US contingent said, no, you didn't give her a high enough start value. And they said, okay, you're right. So then they gave her the extra 10th, which put her into third. And now the decision has apparently now been overturned, and they want to force her to give her medal back, which I think is silly, but
Then I heard today there's video evidence that they did do it in the correct amount of time, and they didn't have the video before, so now they're submitting the
right.
video to review it a third
Yeah,
time.
I'm like, just
At
give
this
the,
point,
at this point, just
both
let
of
it
them,
go.
right? Can
But
they just talk? Can they
I
just
mean,
talk?
the other team appealed, which was their right.
Yeah,
I forget which Romania. I think she was from Romania, and they appealed, which was their right. And whoever the appellate
there's
court,
so
if you
many
will,
tie medals in the Olympics where they just
yeah,
agree to tie it. Just give them both the bronze,
right. Well, it was
right?
like the men's high, was it the men's high jump
Mm-hmm.
at, I think it was transferring now into track and field because gymnastics has been talked about. Men's high jump, they were at, I think it was 7.5 meters or some ridiculous height. There were only two guys left. They both missed at that height. So they went down to the next lowest. So what they do is they can either tie and they
Or
both win
jump off.
gold,
Yeah,
or they have a jump off. So what they do is they start at the next height that they both made. So they go down to that height. Neither one of them made it. They keep going down until one of them makes it over. And
right.
the first one who makes it over wins.
So it's funny because during the
But it
World
was so
Championships,
fun to watch that though.
right? So during the World Championships, they agreed to tie, and then
Hmm.
in this case, they decided no, we want to jump off.
Yeah,
So they did. To answer
exactly.
gymnastics, the women did win the women's team, the all
Yes.
around, and the women's
Wait,
vault.
Rob, you got a minute? Like,
Yeah.
I want to keep explore this point that C4 just made. Like, that was a really interesting decision, wasn't it? Like, are you surprised that, given the choice between guaranteeing a gold for the American, I forgot the name. Let me go look it up.
I forgot his name, but
Yeah, like and the guy from New Zealand. I mean, it's kind of unbelievable that you would give up a sure thing like that. Like, you're getting a gold either way. Like, it's just like you could get a gold for sure, or you could chance it and give the other guy not get a gold, but you still get a gold. It's like
I think, but see, if it was me, I'd want to
Mhm.
keep going. I'd want it to be, I mean, in my mind, at that level, yeah, okay, I got the gold, but I had to share it with somebody. I want it to be legit. I want it to be, I got that gold. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that might have been
I
what's running
definitely
through
see
both their
that.
mind. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I ran track in high school, so I
Mhm.
kind of get where they're coming from. You don't, at that level, it's hard to share a victory. It really is.
So it's
Um,
Kelly McEwen.
so yes,
Yeah.
Oh, McEwen. Yeah,
and
yeah,
the guy from New Zealand.
yeah.
So, I mean, but oh my God, was it fun to watch? And they were like cheering each other on, which was even better. So, I mean, that's the one thing I love about track and field. Everybody cheers everybody on for the most part.
You
There
know
are
what's funny
exceptions.
about that C4? Like they had to do the 4x400 relay, and I was like, well, how are they gonna? They're gonna have to put it on hold for the 4x400 relay. And I was talking with Stuart the other night, and he was like, yeah, they basically they'll just
Mhm.
put it on pause while they
Yeah,
do this
they
whole
do.
4x400 relay, and then they pick it back up. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So the thing with high jump is, and pole vault is very similar. Those two events, you don't have to come in right at the very beginning. You come in at the lowest height you think you can make. And then you can take, then you have a certain amount of time you're allowed to rest between jumps once it gets down to, when you've got like 5 or 6 people, you have more time to rest. Once it gets down to the last 2 or 3 people, you have a certain amount of time to rest. So say you have 3 minutes to rest or 4 minutes to rest in between jumps. Most people will take that but that's why those events take forever, because people are taking that 4 or 5 minute rest in between their jumps. So yeah. And
my dad's in chat, and he actually used to be a hurdler at the high school level. And so I appreciate him for tuning in. Also,
yeah, we'll get to hurdles in a little bit.
Yeah, I just want to say quick little shout out.
That was another fun event.
To Stuart Hayek, and I want to thank him and Jillian for baking me amazing cookies for my quote unquote August birthday. They celebrate, all their mods have August birthdays. I do not have an August birthday, but I enjoyed. Yeah, but I enjoyed the cookies. They did come today, so shout out to them for that. And yeah, there was some incredible events in the track and field, though. One thing I have to get out of the way first is just the men's and the relay and how they just cannot get that baton around. And I'm so almost impressed that everyone knows they're going to mess up, and yet they're able to do it every single time. Like, it's like clockwork. I'm like, how do you not practice this? Like,
but they still come out a winner. Right?
Well, no. I'm talking about
not the first.
The 4x100.
Oh no, the 4. Yeah, you're right. The 4x1. Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
Terrible. I watched the video.
That was years, right? Didn't say one.
Damn. Yeah,
you can jump in, Casey. Well, but yeah, that 4. But the 4x4. I mean, the women's 4x4 wasn't even close. It wasn't even close.
Yeah,
that was 4x4 is hands down my favorite track and field event. Hands down my favorite.
Yeah.
And my but the pole vault, that guy with the 20, almost 20 and a half feet, 20 feet 6.5 inches world record pole vault.
Yeah.
And he's from Louisiana. He started pole vaulting as a kid in Louisiana. And because of something with the US, he was allowed, but because his mom is Swedish, is from Sweden, has the dual citizenship, he was allowed to jump for Sweden.
Right. Even though he goes to like an American university, and
well, he grew up in Louisiana. His father's American, and his parents are his coaches. It's amazing to just the stories.
I'm trying to remember what the reason that he decided to go with them, though, because there was I remember watching it, but I can't remember.
There was something to do with the IOC regulation in the US, or the US Olympic Committee's regulations or something. So he just said it was just easier to do that. I don't know. There's a lot of athletes like that, though. They have parents with dual citizenship or something, and
yeah, I'm trying to remember which sport it was in, but there was this French athlete. I thought it was an incredible story. She was supposed to do it. She was training with her trainers, and they decided to move all of the trainers and everything into Paris. And so you had to come to Paris to train. You could no longer train in your city, wherever you were in France. And she didn't want to do that. And so then they shut down that facility. And so her coaches were out of a job. And so I'm trying to remember which African nation she did it for, but they agreed because she had dual citizen to allow for it. I believe, moved her trainers over to that country, or maybe they still just trained in France, but they just did it under that other flag. And she ended up getting gold over the French. And I was like,
I heard the story. I don't remember what sport it was now, though. But I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. I was like, there's just some incredible things. One thing I do want to point out is Noah Lyles. Everyone was talking about the fastest in the world.
That was where I was going next.
Yeah, and obviously one in the 100 meters, which was unexpected.
0.005 seconds.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
so that means he ran at 9.78. And Thompson from Jamaica ran it in 9.785. I watched that race live.
Did too. It was an incredible.
It was insane.
And then he gets COVID, and then he runs the preliminary for the 200.
Robbie, you don't get COVID overnight. He probably had it the whole time.
No. I think Well, maybe he had it then, but he was not symptomatic. He was definitely symptomatic by the time he
Right,
got
right.
the 200
Yeah, by the
Yeah.
time he got to 200,
limit,
because he brought,
he was off at
but he
that
didn't
point.
tell anybody he had
Wild,
COVID
right?
until after the race.
But
Yeah.
not only after that race, he ran that race. Then he was ready for the next race. Got even sicker, and then he did the
Yeah.
test, right?
Yeah.
And he came back positive, and he still ran for gold, and he got bronze. I'm
Yeah.
just oh my! I can't believe that they let him run it because just for the danger.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
cannot believe they let him run that 200. I was like, you are out of your freaking mind letting him run that. But
I get that he's been training for 4 years for it, but like at some time, like the health and your well-being has got to, take some sort of, I don't know. It's just kind of, wild to
yeah,
me.
you've got to, yeah, there's just,
But yeah, Rye Benjamin in the men's 400 meter hurdles was incredible. That was a great run. And then I love
yeah,
was a big part of the 400 because they showed earlier that if he ran the regular 4x400, not the hurdles one, he would be right up there just with his hurdles time with some of the best in the world. And then you got to see him do it, right?
yeah,
It was like what a cool final anchor leg for that too. Two of the
that,
fastest men in the entire competition, over 400 distance, going head to head, and then but just I don't know, just such an incredible. I'm happy that they won that one, and the women's
yeah,
400.
that wasn't even close.
Yeah, that
And it
was.
was funny because the commentators were saying, I don't know if these are the right athletes, but I don't know if it's the right lineup and blah, blah, blah. And boy, were they proven wrong.
I mean, they took it right out the
Boy, were they proven wrong.
incredible first leg. Then the second one ran even better. I think it was the best time of the four, I want to say.
Yeah,
The
I think it was,
third one was a solid time, but all of them run sub 50, right? So
yeah,
like that's amazing to get sub 50 is amazing. To have all four sub 50 is incredible.
hmm
And just a really great run.
yeah.
Um,
And then, of course, Sydney McLaughlin Lavroni, which I
right.
kept every time I hear them say her name, I think they're saying Negroni, and I know it's Lavroni, but
Right.
it's like maybe because I wanted something to drink that night. I don't know. But world record in the women's 400-meter hurdles. I mean, that was phenomenal.
Amazing. And then
And
Gabby,
then,
this is the women's 200 meter. She was amazing as well.
hmm yeah,
She really put a stamp on the Olympics for her. But there's just so many, Grant Holloway. But obviously, I think the one we got to talk the most about. Well, Quincy Hall was great at the 400 meters, but Cole
yeah,
Hawk, that
yes.
guy,
I
the most.
saw that race live. I was
Yeah,
like,
I
in that
was
1500, I'm not the 1500. He came out of nowhere. He was in sixth place coming around the final 100
yeah,
out of nowhere to
yeah,
get bronze.
just
But the other one, the men's, what was it, the 5,000 meter?
oh
The
yeah,
men's 5,000 meter. What was his name? Cole. No. Cole Hawker won the 1500. The
yeah, just
1500 meter.
yeah,
Cole
that's what I'm saying.
Hawker.
Yeah, that's the
Sorry,
one.
I was thinking Grant Fisher in the 5,000.
Right.
Cole Hawker.
Cole Hawker, though, he
Oh
had an
my,
opening. He didn't, it closed. And I thought, oh, that was his opportunity
nowhere.
to make it. And then the
Mm-mm.
patience to run through it a second time,
Yeah.
just come through at
But
the end. How'd
if
they
you
have the
watched
leg at
if
the end?
you watch Kerr at the well, what's his name? The guy who was supposed to win, Ingebrigtsen.
Mhm.
He set too fast a pace. By the time he got to that final 200, you could see he was dying. I mean, I'm a distance runner by trade. I've coached distance.
But didn't
Um,
he won the bigger one,
but
didn't he?
then you're what he did. He won the other one. He won, I
Yeah,
think he
the
won
5,000?
he won the 5,000. Yeah. But and that's the one where Grant Fisher came out of nowhere to get bronze. He was like in sixth coming around the final turn into the last 100. But Hawker, he'd been hanging in most of the race. But that last 200 meters with Kurt, Ingebrigtsen, and Hawker, you could see Ingebrigtsen was beginning to die. He had pushed himself just a little bit. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my lighting on my computer. It's just doing random things. So anyway, if you watch like the last 20 meters or so, you can see Kerr starting to slow down. He thinks he's got it. And all of a sudden, here comes Hawker. And by the time Hawker's past him, they're at the finish line and he can't do anything about it. It was
He
freaking
timed it
phenomenal to watch.
perfectly.
That is exactly how I would have one of my kids run that race. Hang in there, fourth, fifth, save what you got. Just keep in, if the guy's way out there, don't bother. But keep in the mix. And then that last kick, that last 200-300 meters, start turning it on. Then that last 100, you better full on turn on the afterburners. And that's exactly what Hawker did. And it was amazing to watch.
I want to also bring up one other sport, which I had never really followed before, or I don't even remember watching this before. The steeplechase. What an interesting.
I love the steeplechase. I used to watch it. They had it in
People don't know what a
college.
steeplechase is. It's kind of like hurdles, but they're these big beams, and they're across the whole entire track. It's not like one per lane.
It crosses like 3 or 4 lanes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they've got that. So
And then the water jump.
7 laps. So this is how you get to the number. It's 28 jumps you have to get over and 7 water traps. If you have to jump into water and then jump out of water. I'm like, how did they add that as a random obstacle? Because
I know that's fun to watch.
It's the rain too, and it was like the whole track was slick. I'm like, how do the people want people to just don't fall on their face doing this?
Yeah, I've seen someone fall in the. They used to run it. They run it in the college level. Yeah. And so when I would go to Bradley's track meets, they would run it. And actually, we were at a meet in Frostburg, and a girl fell over the water jump and severely broke an ankle.
Yeah, it seems like the most.
It's one of those ones where you want to say don't look at it, and you shouldn't say don't look at it.
Yeah,
but you look at it, it's gonna. But she broke her ankle.
Running event with a water pitfall. What is? It was so. I was captivated. And we got silver in the men's.
It's fun to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. I was like, what is this? I just got. Davey, have you ever seen a steeplechase before?
Oh yeah, I have seen it a couple of times. How's my volume? I can't. It does seem like I'm low. Why? Did I mess up?
I'm hearing you okay.
Yeah, you
Is that better?
Yeah.
Is it okay? Okay.
Little
low.
You're good. Little on the
It's
low
still
side, but
low?
I can hear you.
Okay. Hold on. Let me see my. Hold on a second. Let me just check my OBS to make sure.
All you guys. I'm just sitting here on my laptop with.
No, it seems like my volume's coming in okay. So
with
don't
earbuds.
know. I don't know. So I sound like 100 miles away.
No, you're good.
You can hardly. Oh, you know what? It might be that damn fan. That might be screwing this up. How about now? Is that better? Like to order a cheeseburger, 2 Big Macs, some chicken nuggets.
There we go.
Davey's actually had a chicken nugget stream where he tried to go to the goal of eating 100 nuggets on a stream. It was quite something.
Who did that?
Be like a new ASMR like this.
Oh.
That's what I can do.
So Davey, you were saying that you have seen the steeplechase before.
Yeah, a couple of times. I mean, I've definitely seen more of it this year than past years, but it's wild. It's like, whatever would you do if you combined a distance race, hurdles, and equestrian together? That's basically what this is. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really fun because the first couple of laps they're actually jumping the hurdles. By about halfway through the second lap, starting into the third lap, they're starting to actually step off the hurdles or the barriers. They're not hurdles, sorry, barriers. I was corrected.
No.
But yeah, it's fun to. I like it's fun to watch.
Yeah, that's why they're a barrier, not a hurdle. For the people who don't understand the difference, a hurdle will give with you, you won't move the barrier. So
no, absolutely not.
Yes. David, do you want to say something more?
No, that's pretty much
spot on.
It's pretty good. I mean, we mentioned it last week. Justice was served when the guy got pushed out by the Spaniard, and he had to go around in the qualifier for steeplechase from the men's side, but that was last week. But he did make it to the final, so justice was served, and I'm happy for that. But yeah, just really great stuff all around. And then you mentioned C4 just broke it down perfectly. I have nothing to add. It was really well done.
Yeah. So just so people know, in the athletics competition, which is including all the track and field and all that sort of stuff, we got 34 medals. And this is considered, from a lot of people from the international perspective, like athletics are considered like the peak thing. It's what why it's one of the it's more in the second week, and it's
Mhm.
usually gets at least internationally some of the best ratings. But 14 gold, 11 silver, and 9 bronze in the athletics category. I just want to also talk about the medal count for just a moment. U.S. and China tied in gold. So in my mind, we have the tiebreaker because we had 126 total medals this time, which is an
Wow.
incredible haul. And very consistent, 40 gold, 44 silver, 42 bronze. So, pretty evenly spread across all three. And I know that people are like, if you're not first, you're last. But I mean, to be
You
second
know.
best in any sport, especially some of these. I mean, we got a silver in diving, and no one's winning any of the diving competitions because China had
Mhm.
that locked up. They, I believe, had won 22 of their last 24 events across the Olympics in
Something
diving.
like that, yeah.
That it's just truly remarkable. But yeah, I guess C4, any other final things that you have on track that you wanted to, or any other topics you wanted to talk before we let you go?
Well, actually the one other one I wanted to mention was the women's discus. The girl who won it's actually from Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, Valerie
Hmm.
Allman. Yeah, she was a lot of fun to watch. I mean track hands. I wish I had gotten to see more of the track and field. I just with my schedule, it's just wasn't, and I recorded a lot of it, so I
Yeah.
did get to watch a lot of it in hindsight. I have the marathon recorded. I didn't get to watch it. I wish I had. That's another one of my people think I'm crazy for liking to watch distance races, but I love to watch the strategies that people employ as they race. And here's the thing that people need to remember about track and field. It's not always about winning. It's more about doing better than you did the time before. So even at the Olympic level. So I mean, kudos to all of those that participated, that got there, that finished. I feel so bad. I heard about the Australian woman who dropped out after about just over a kilometer. She had to drop out of the marathon because she was having spasms in her legs.
Uh,
You feel horrible for those people. But I mean, just to get there, they've done something I couldn't do, I can't do, I would love to have done. Injuries in college put a kibosh to that. So I'm coaching now, but that's
yeah,
fine.
there you go. One other thing I had to ask, did you catch breaking, the newest event in the Olympic?
No.
No. All
I
right.
mean, I saw like the highlights kind of thing. I'm like, why?
I love it. I'll put it this way. So,
I mean, I like, breakdancing had its place in the day, but as an Olympic sport, no.
yeah.
Sorry, just not my thing.
Right. That's fair. It's interesting just, talking to people online on the debate is it a sport or is it not a sport, right?
No.
And I can understand why some people don't think it is, but I think that some of the moves that these guys do are as complicated and as amazing as some of the gymnastic stuff. Like,
Yeah.
just spin on your head and then stop on a dime and then spin and then jump to your feet and just some of this stuff is incredible that they're able to do. And my
But is
son,
it a sport?
I mean, but gymnastics is
I
a
mean,
sport. So
if
what makes
figure skating's
gymnastics
a
a sport
sport,
and
what
then
would
not
stop
that?
it? What would stop this being a sport? I
Yeah,
mean, I don't
figure
know.
That's
skating.
true. I mean, I guess think of it as floor exercise to rap music,
Right, exactly. Yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
Okay. In that perspective, okay, I can see the logic. But one thing I do want to say is the one wrestler who he got bronze in his weight group is from Hagerstown, Maryland, which is literally 10 miles up the road from me. And I didn't know him personally, but I know people who do. So we were all very proud of him.
yeah. That's
So
exciting. We're gonna talk a little bit of wrestling more in
oh boy.
about.
I might hang out and listen, just turn the camera off.
Yeah, of course. You can always do that. So, or you can feel free to join on any of the platforms if you'd like as well. But you're always welcome to stay in the listeners' lounge, as we call it. So,
Excellent.
um,
If I have
so
something to say, I'll throw it in the chat.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. Yep, all the chats from all the different things are appearing today, I believe. So you can send it in Facebook, on Twitch, on
Excellent.
or on YouTube, and they should all funnel down into it. And oh wow, did someone we've had a bot on both Twitch and Kick today. We're making it big, Davey. You know, we're
You are making it. Go free through three. See if you can get one on YouTube.
There we go.
Mhm.
I'll
Yeah,
have to investigate Kick later.
yeah.
Although I have a feeling Kick's going to be another one of those ones like Twitch that I need to play with and figure out. I still haven't figured out Twitch.
Pines has made it his job tonight to troll Davey, which is pretty funny. So I appreciate Mod Father for letting me know. Yeah, I guess I don't have any mods in chat right now, but I appreciate everyone for just ignoring the trolls. I came across a troll earlier today on Facebook, and I challenged him to come on our podcast tonight and say it to my face. I'll be curious to see if he shows up. So, I always I always like the internet trolls that try to, hide behind anonymity.
Wow. Did you challenge him to take it
That would be
outside?
interesting.
If you
Yeah,
did,
take it.
he had no shield. He'll never do it. If you're gonna challenge somebody to go outside from the internet, it's not gonna
Right.
happen.
No, yeah, okay. Well, he was trying to keep on challenging
Right.
me to let him know where I'm from and all that. So look, why don't you tell me where you're from? Or do you want to come on a Zoom conversation and have one live with me on it? And crickets, so like, exactly. So people talk a big game, but no one actually wants to have a debate. I'm always happy to have a debate with sports fans on anything. It was actually a question. I can pose it real quickly to you guys. I'm curious what your thoughts are. There was a heckler in the stands and a player in Major League Baseball.
This is not a good topic. We should.
You don't think so?
I don't think it's a good topic. Let's carry on.
Just what I think is this what I'm thinking of?
Jared
Jared Duran.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
No,
Yeah,
I'm with
Yeah,
Davey on this
no,
one. I don't think
no.
I don't
let's not
think
do
we
that,
should bring
Robbie.
this up.
Okay. Well, my perspective, I just want to say real quickly, was just should fans be allowed to heckle? That was the question. And I think
Heckle, yes, but what that it's I don't know what the precursor was, but what led to it
the answer
over
that
the guardrail, over the line. So whatever
Yeah.
caused.
no, what
Yeah,
he said that he needs a tennis racket. That's all he said.
No, I'm just understanding that, but the reaction.
No. The reaction
is
was
not
uncalled
justified.
for. No one's debating the reaction. I'm
But
debating
Bobby,
whether or not fans have the right to heckle.
Beyond
And
that, it's not really an Olympic topic anyway, so it's just kind of like.
I don't know. That just it's too.
It's too dicey. All right, we'll let it go. But I will stand by the fact that heckling is allowed from the fans, and players need to get over it. But that's where I stand on this subject. As long as the fans aren't getting too over the top. But saying you need a tennis racket in a baseball game, I don't think is over the top. So, but Stuart said, Red Sox. Dude is insane. He's one of 7 wrestlers to win 4 NCAA wrestling championships in D1. Wow.
Some people do heckle golfers, actually. It's kind of funny. I've actually seen it once in a while.
Yeah.
You do, yeah.
Right, but especially
I wish I had watched the golf.
time.
I love golf, and I didn't get to watch it.
Oh yeah, there was a good golf competition. Yeah, I didn't get to watch it, but I heard
covered
good
that pretty well last week. It was an amazing finish for Scheffler. Great stuff.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. I really like him.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Oh, speaking of Champ, he's rating in the True No Spots podcast. So welcome on in. And so I guess they were doing a show tonight. Let me see what they were talking about.
I think they're talking about wrestling.
That's usually a good guess, but every once in a while they do a sports do a video game stream. So I was curious what they did tonight. But it looks like they actually did do the No Spots podcast tonight. So welcome in, H Rod and Champ, and so give that a little tappy.
You're ready. I don't want to cut in, but
yeah.
I wanted that. What are your favorite things about Scheffler? Like Scheffler's certainly had a great year, Robbie. Like what anything in particular that you like about him?
No, I just thought that it was a great matchup and it had some pretty good rounds. I was, for the you're talking about the
Mhm.
golf, yeah. So
Yeah.
just some legendary rounds, and just I always find it interesting to represent the country versus so much of golf is such an individual thing usually, right? So it becomes very different in the Olympics when you're representing something beyond just who you are. And so just like that part of it was the only thing I was gonna say, but yeah, but welcome in to our wrestling fans. We're gonna have a big wrestling segment in just a little bit, both Olympic wrestling and we'll talk about WWE because I actually caught both Raw and SmackDown last week. So I'll talk to Champ
I
and
have
Mac.
Raw on in the background right now.
There you go. All right, but you can't spoil that because Champ
No, I'm not gonna
does
say a
record
word.
later.
I'll
So
leave that all to Champ in case Champ
right,
and you guys.
right,
I'm just
for
saying
sure.
I've got it on in the background.
Yeah. Um, Sounds good. All right. So C4, any final things that you want to talk about before we switch gears and I bring Champ in to talk a little bit of some other topics?
I am good. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it as always, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys in September.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll probably start hockey talk towards the end of September is my gut feeling once we get a little bit past some of the preseason stuff. And
Yeah,
but yeah, it'll
yeah.
be
I'll be gone. I'll be gone the first week in October. I'm
okay.
going on vacation to
Nice.
Sedona.
Oh, that'll be fun. So that should
So
be cool.
Dona. I've
Okay,
always
Champ,
wanted to go.
he'll be on in a bit. I'm grabbing a quick snack. Perfect. All right. So while Champ does that, I want Gil to talk a little bit about soccer, especially from the women's perspective, because we had a big match against Brazil. So Gil, why don't you take it away and give us some of your thoughts on that?
Sure. Thanks. Just before we get into the women's medal round, there was, of course, a men's side too. U.S. unfortunately got knocked out in the quarterfinal. But the fact that they reached the quarterfinal, a pretty good step for a program that's so far, for the last 16 years anyway, hasn't really done a whole lot. But the gold medal match is pretty exciting. France and Spain. France was down 3-1 going into about, I want to say, 15 minutes before full time, which is 90 minutes in soccer, if you're not familiar. And they managed to tie it, and the last goal was on a penalty kick. So they went into overtime. Olympics, you go into overtime. It's called I think it's called a silver goal. Anyway, there's no sudden death OT in international soccer. And unfortunately for the host nation, Spain managed to get two within the 30-minute extra time. They play the whole, as I said, they play the whole 30 minutes. So the same guy scored both goals for Spain. They end up winning the goal 5-3 over France, kind of a kick in the gut for the host nation, but they performed pretty well. And remember, I mentioned last week that for the men, it's you're restricted to under 23. For the women, there is no age limit. So there was that. Moving on to the women's side. Okay, well, here was the big thing. Could the women come back from the disappointment of falling in the first stage of the knockout round? Could they do something? Could they make a splash? They made it all the way to the gold medal game. New coach, new regime, new system, newer players. Some of the old guard retiring, not making it. Alex Morgan was left off of this roster, for example. New direction entirely. So Emma Hayes, could we see, what kind of magic could she work with this thing? Well, she did it. She pulled them out. Um, I feel like I'm describing a hockey team, but I think this game against Brazil featured everything that this new edition of the USA women's soccer team is all about. Timely goals, great defense, a pretty good transition game, and ultimate saves by probably, I think, the world's number one female keeper, Alyssa Nair. Um, so I got a little something here. I'm going to show it to you, see if you can see it on camera.
Oh,
It's
nice.
probably backwards,
No, it's good.
but
I see
basically
it.
it's okay. So I don't know if you saw it, but it's a triple shot of espresso. Now, I don't know how much attention everybody else has been paying, but the reason I'm referring to that is because I referred to them as the RSS feed. Well, they came up with a much better nickname for themselves. Trinity Rodman, Mallory Swanson, and Sophia Smith, the front three attackers for the women's national team. They called themselves Triple Espresso.
Ooh.
That's the
clever.
nickname they came up for themselves. And if anybody's curious, no, I am not going to open this and drink this right now, because if I did, you all would literally never hear the end of it. So
Gail would have his first ever 24-hour stream on Twitch.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great idea. I don't know if I can pull it off.
There you go.
But it was a wonderful game. It was capped off by a somewhat controversial goal by Swanson. I had to look at the replay probably about 5, 6, 7 times before I convinced myself, okay, this was good. Now here's the key. There's 2 keys to this, actually. The angle where you see the goal, you have to realize that when the video review team reviews it, they do this kind of tilt. Where we're seeing it on the live feed, when it happens live, you see it on an angle. So we don't quite see the true line of what's offsides, who's offsides, and who's not. The second key, which is probably the bigger of the 2, is the fact that, well, okay, so how the play started. Corbin Albert was in midfield, recovered the ball, found both Swanson and Smith heading towards the goal. At the time she passed the ball, this is the rule. At the time she passed the ball forward to the attacker, the eventual shooter, the person receiving the pass, must be onside, meaning they cannot be past the last defender. They must be even or behind them. And even if a fingernail, I am not kidding about this, a fingernail is ahead of the last defender, they will cancel it. They will put the flag up. It's offsides. It's no good. That didn't happen here. Now, Sophia Smith was a little bit offsides on this play. This is how much you have to have it up here as well as in the body as an athlete. When she collected the pass, Mallory Swanson realized that, saw Smith on her wing. Had she had passed the ball to Smith, who was even more open for the goal, it would have been offsides. So in effect, Smith was canceled out of the play, and as long as she didn't take part of the play was legal and onside. They never put up the flag. It was about a 5-minute review for VAR. Good goal, onside. And Naomi Girma and the defense took over from there. Great stops by there, and a key save by Alyssa Nair, as I mentioned. And they outlasted the Brazilians, send the legend Marta into retirement, unfortunately. You kind of wanted to see her, with all her greatness, go out as a winner, but ran into the wall that is the United States. And I'll wind up this by saying, England, you've given us so many things, so many great things, so many great women you put out there. Dame Judi Dench, Helen Mirren. Well, you probably gave us the greatest of all in Emma Hayes. Thank you so much for casting her aside like the Boston tea we put in the harbor that you tried to force down our throats 251 years ago. Thank you for giving us the greatest gift in this kick-ass coach named Emma Hayes, and allowing her to turn around a program that, frankly, was spinning out of control, spiraling out of control in just 10 games. She managed to guide them to a major international championship.
Yeah, that's wild that it's like 10 or 12 games. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, so Emma Hayes, I'm kind of wondering if, and this is silly, but would the England national team for the men recruit Emma Hayes? Because
that probably is not a bad idea. I don't think there's any amount of money they can throw at her.
Yeah, that's fair.
She's having the time of her life right now. This is her dream.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you can't. You can do a lot better. She'll easily beat Gareth Southgate, right? Like that's that we know. So I figure she's got good things ahead for sure.
Oh yeah, she's not done though. I don't think she'll be done until they win at least 2 World Cups.
Wow.
Yeah.
She wants to rebuild this team back to who they were 8 years ago.
It's totally happening because like it's already like really come a long way in
I
like
love
the
how much
last 8
fun
years.
she's having with it, right? I think that fun is contagious to the players. I think sometimes too much, like coaches are these hard asses trying to really push these athletes, but at some point it is a game and you want them to enjoy it. And I think that people play a little looser when they're enjoying the game and they don't get tight and they don't, have things fall apart on them. And I thought that really our goalie was a great example of that. She really played well within herself in this, game. In a 1-0 game, your MVP has got to be your goalie, right? As Gil alluded to, which I love about the offsides thing, about unlike in hockey where anybody's over the line, the whole play is offsides, where it's really where the ball is, right? And she placed it perfectly. So there's nothing against the goal. The goal obviously stands up as what won it, but the fact that to win it 1-0 means you have to allow 0 goals. And there were 2 or 3 great opportunities for goals that she had made some really high danger saves. And I just thought that, in such a defensive effort, she really, you know, kudos to the goalie. She played out of her mind. So I just wanted to put that out there. But it was a great match. And it's funny because some people think want a high scoring final, blah 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 blah. But true football enthusiasts from around the world would say a 1-0 result is one of the most beautiful results you can have in soccer, and it's truly a chess on grass, and it's we just barely outplayed them, but what a phenomenal game.
Played well enough to beat them and win the gold medal. Most people don't understand. Most Americans don't understand. Well, if it's a 1-0 game, how exciting it could be. You really have to watch the game. Watch how the play builds from beginning to end. But some folks get it, some don't. It's their loss. One last thing I want to say about Emma Hayes. You mentioned the joy that she exudes. You're right about that. But you know what? That doesn't mean that she can't be a stern taskmaster. And one of the complaints about her was, oh, why didn't she sub off more than one? I think it was only one substitute that she made in the semifinal against Germany, or one of them. And there was a lot of smoke blown by these keyboard warriors that think they know the game and actually don't, and tried to make her out to be some sort of idiot. Well, I mean, I think she was doing that because she knew how hard to push her players. I kind of feel like she's a female Herb Brooks. She knew the paces she was putting her players through. She knew how long they would last and how conditioned they were, how well conditioned they were. So it's another level. It's not just the joy, it's the trust she showed in them. And again, 10 games since she took over. And just to give you a short amount of time she had to work with and figure out, okay, who's going to the Olympics? How are we going to put it all together? What's the strategy going to be? She had a turnaround time of maybe 3 months since she took over the job. And if this is what we can look forward to, I can't wait for the World Cup in 3 years.
Yeah. And the women's game is just growing by leaps and bounds in the United States. Now there's a couple of different um, groups, and back in the day, professional women's soccer was hard to come by, and now there's competing organizations, which will up the play and level for all of the fans. And I'm loving what I'm seeing from women's soccer within the United States, and there's huge growth potential there. And we're gonna switch games. Gil, you watch the basketball too, right?
Well, I understand. I understand. Champ has got more to say on that. So I'm going to serve up an hors d'oeuvre, and I'm going to let Chef Champ come in and drop the main dish on everybody. There was the men's and the women's, of course, both in effect dream teams. I'm sure everybody here saw it, and everybody listening saw it. You know the result. It's the how they got there. And the only thing I really have to say is, and there's people out there I'm sure will disagree with me, but LeBron James gets a lot of praise, but he gets a lot of criticism too. Is he the greatest of all time? This Olympic medal, this Olympic gold medal, you might say gives him the edge because now he's got 3 to Michael Jordan's 2. I'm not here to settle that argument, but what I saw from him was the ultimate show of leadership, the ultimate in y'all ride my back. I'm going to carry you to that gold. And that's what he did in this game. Now, as for what really happened, how it really ended, I'll leave that to Champ. I'm sure he can describe it better than I can. And the women's side, same thing pretty much. I feel like I'm Justin Timberlake. I'm talking about mirrors again. Asia Wilson carried that team. And I'm Kafisa Copper, Kalia Copper, put the nail in the coffin of that French team. But man, that French team, boy, they fought to the end. I got to give it to them. I really got to give it to
men
them.
and women. So, the host nation really showed up in basketball.
Yeah, they did.
We'll also talk a little bit about Serbia too.
Can we extend that point a little bit? The French came in second place in a whole lot of events. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Like, breaking too, they came in second. You had Danny Dan versus Phil Wizard for the men's the B boys final. And it's like, I think it's great and also kind of frustrating if you're a fan of French athletics, because it's like, this is so many silver medals that were so close to being gold medals. And in the case of the women's basketball, it was a difference of like an inch because the vote was on the line that would have tied the game for the final shot of the regulation, which was kind of a nutso ending to the women's gold medal match. So
for sure. I
love
the picture of the plane.
Like, are you proud of that? I mean, being this close in all these matches, I guess so. But I mean, it's got to be wild just to think that they were this close to gold on so many occasions in this, and they won gold on plenty of occasions too, of course. But with the Marchand and so on and so forth.
I believe, if I'm reading this correctly, they were 4th in the overall medal count, which, I know some people consider that important and some people do not. But 26 silvers, which puts them in 3rd most silvers, right? So we had 44, China had 27, they had 26. Right there, I agree with you. I think silver is a phenomenal result. Heck, bronze is a phenomenal result. I know, a lot of people like to just look at the Olympics of who has the most gold, but I think that it doesn't tell the full story. I mean, these are the top 10 people in every sport, and if you can end up in the top 3 of that.
Yeah, ultimately the medal counts they don't really mean a lot, because like really if you're winning medals, it's because you have the most money and the most people in your country to do it, right? Like, It's not really fair. Like, not every country is equal in this scenario.
Well, I find it surprising how little the U.S. gives to winners in comparison to some other countries. Some countries, you can go buy you a house or an apartment if you win a gold medal for life, and we're getting like $25,000-$30,000 bonus, right? Yeah, so it's like it's just interesting how different countries how much they value that gold medal, right? So. It's interesting that there's no universal decision on that. That's up to every country.
Yeah, very much so. Really quick, Robbie, do you want me to do the breaking stuff now, or do you want me to just wait until after the basketball stuff?
Okay. Why don't we do it after the basketball? We can do the basketball real quick, and then we'll do it. I do want to talk about the semifinal basketball game first, just because I found myself rooting, for Joker in that game, which is weird, right? Because you should always root for Team USA. And I wasn't rooting against Team USA per se, but I was just so impressed by their ability to put together a great team, great flow, great 3-point shooting. I mean, it wasn't just Joker having a phenomenal game, which he did, but just I really felt for that team when they lost. They really thought they had a chance in it, and they gave Team USA a fight. And I think Team USA should be thanking them, because I feel like if they hadn't given them such a fight in that one, and almost like a wake-up call, I think that they could have easily fallen behind France and potentially lost that game. But I think that they were awakened to the idea of possible upsets, and I think that reignited that fire inside of them. But Champ, what were some of your thoughts on the semifinal game going into the finals?
Right. So that Serbia game was definitely a game that woke their asses up, because they trailed for a lot of that game, and they're supposed to be the dream team trying to get another gold medal, and they got a team like Serbia, who does have a good player in Djokovic, and a lot of other good players and stuff like that. And they showed that they're a type of team that can be very gritty and can really put up points. And that had to force the team USA to like really buckle down and really start putting points on the board. Steph Curry started lighting it up from beyond the arc. LeBron, as Gil mentioned, really put the team on his back and said, I got this, we got this, and let's go. And that's what happened with that situation, is that they stuck together. LeBron put the team on his back. Steph also did his part from beyond the arc, and they were able to bring it back. And it's Steph towards the end with a couple big threes in the fourth quarter really put the game away and really gave the United States a chance to move on to that gold medal game and not have to be put into a position to play for the bronze medal when they've been playing so pretty well up to this point. So this was definitely that game that really was a make or break for the U.S. and whether they were going to be playing for the gold, or if they were going to be sitting back and playing for the bronze and then watching either Serbia or France play for the gold. But this was definitely that game that's going to be in the annals of Olympic gold medal basketball, with them doing such work to come back against Serbia to get to the gold medal game.
Yeah, they were at one point, Serbia was up 17 points, and which is not a small number. I mean, they had to, I believe, outscore them by 12 or 14 points in the fourth quarter to win that game. So it was not an easy road by any means. I mean, Steph was unconscious. Just his shooting was just, I couldn't believe how on fire he was. And it's tough because, a lot of people are like, Steph deserves an MVP because the last two games, if he doesn't, show up like that, LeBron, yes, he had the triple double, but like every one of those points we needed. And but I do agree, LeBron, kept us in it, was kind of the cog, in the early games too. But I have to ask Davey this question. What are your thoughts on Jason Tatum being benched or not played for most of these Olympics, especially after the run he had, in the NBA finals? So
that's a real mystery, right? I haven't figured it out myself. I think it just boils down to Kerr and the coaching staff, a really good coaching staff. I mean, could you imagine Steve Kerr and Eric Spoelstra on the same coaching staff? Like that's an all-time coaching staff right there. But yeah, I guess it just amounts to they wanted experience on the team, and there's just something we don't know about yet. I think we're going to find out what the real reason behind that later. But my guess of it is that, well, LeBron and AD were carrying the team on their back, and I mean, Halliburton didn't play at all. Did you see? Apparently, he was on the team. I didn't know that. That fooled me. But
yeah.
So I don't know. But probably they were just going with heavy rotation minutes, and they're going to lean on the people that had done it before. And not to say that Tatum hadn't done it before. I mean, he won an NBA Finals, for goodness sake, just a few weeks ago. So
right.
It's wild.
And had played in Olympics before and had more minutes the last Olympics. So it's not like no.
It's funny you mentioned that, Davey, because Tyler Halliburton actually put out a tweet that says, when you're part of the project and don't put in any work and still get an A for the project. That's what happened with Tyler Halliburton.
I saw that tweet.
I saw that. Let's go.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. But I agree. The only reason I can think is they're playing 40-minute games instead of 48. Not everyone's going to get these heavy rotations they're used to in the NBA. Like, how does the chemistry work? You can't just play everyone 10 minutes. Like, that becomes people get cold, and it's hard, to play that way, especially when you're used to playing, 30 to 40 minutes. But still, like, it's pretty crazy. And I next year in the NBA, he's gonna have a revenge tour. Like he's gonna light up Golden State when he plays them. You know that. You know, like yeah, if he puts up a 50-point game, I'm
Yeah,
gonna right now against Golden State. You know,
that's not good news for Laker fans because it means Boston might be well on their way to back-to-back championships. I do not like that at all. I do
yeah,
not enjoy that setup at all. I will say one more thing, just really quick, just to get this out there, because I know everybody's gonna say the same thing, so I may as well say it first. Wasn't it nice to root for Steph Curry for a change? Like, we're
right.
so used to rooting against him, and like
Yeah.
that was good. That felt good.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way about LeBron, which is weird because I do root for the Lakers, but it's always been very difficult when he came over because I have to get this out there because there's a thing on social media about LeBron pushing away a kid just trying to get a picture with him and then doing a dance right afterwards. I'm like, you couldn't have done the dance with the kid. Like, I mean, it's just like he keeps having these misses to me. Like it's he did great out there, did all the things, but it's like you know the camera's rolling, man. Like like just give the kid 1 minute of your time. Like it's not like it drives me crazy with these superstars. Michael Jordan used to do it too, and I just like, come on, like these are the greatest of the time, and you almost get to the point where I have no ways to knock on you, and then you still find a way, right? I just like you're so close to making me like you, and you keep on finding things that frustrate me to no end. And I get it, you can't be on all the time, but like he flipped a switch and just started dancing like 2 feet away from the kid, right? I just like, and he looks so angered by the thought that a kid would want to take a picture with him, and I just like he has to do better in that moment, in my mind, and maybe people give him a pass or whatever, but like I don't know. It's just a miss for me, right? I feel like if you're gonna be somebody that people should be looking up to, you gotta have that all the time. And I know it's hard. It's easy for me to say as a couch guy, right? Um, but it's still, I don't know. What do you think, Davey? Do you think that, you know, do you see the moment I'm talking about on social media? Kind of blew up the last couple of
No,
days.
I didn't see it, but it's the little things with LeBron. Like, it's not the easiest thing to completely wrap your arms around him for stuff like that. So, I guess it's consistent with the rest of his career. But he is a great player, and I agree with what everyone's been saying. He's been for this tournament. He's been a great leader. You got to tip the cap in that scenario, but nobody's perfect.
Right. So the other thing that I find interesting is the choice to give an MVP award, right? So in all the other sports, there really isn't an MVP given. There isn't one given in women's sports. And then I looked it up and they give it in this Olympics. I was like, oh, how many years have they been giving an MVP in the Olympics award? So the answer is they've given it 3 out of the last 6 Olympics. So it's not even consistent. There was like a whole entire like 2 or 3 Olympics in a row they didn't give an MVP. So I just find it very interesting that they do it this way. Like either in my mind it should be like every time there's an Olympics there's an MVP or never. But it's weird that they just sort of pick and choose when to give this award. David, do you have any thoughts on that?
I didn't even know they had an MVP for this.
Yeah, I didn't know either. I didn't know either. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, so the MVP basketball Olympic award, I'm going to pull it up right now because it's only been ever given, I believe, 3 times in history. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up right now. But I'm going to let you guys give your final thoughts on the gold medal match while I'm looking this up. So I'll let Champ give some more thoughts on if he has it, if not, Davey.
Oh, listen, Steph Curry was lights out. All 24 of his points were from beyond the arc. Absolutely insane. When he hit that 3-pointer with 2 bammers in his face and he nailed it nothing but net, I was just like, yeah, they can't stop Steph. They can't stop him. They just can't. They can't do it. And then he hit that 1-3 and then he was off the court. He's looking like, dude, he did this. So, hey, good night, France. Good night. I was saying the same thing. I was like, good night, France. Thanks for coming. Like, thanks for coming. Thanks for hosting. Appreciate you. There was the one time he hit a 3, and I think one of his teammates from Golden State was sitting in the crowd. He kept looking at him like, look, I'm all right. I got this. And I was just like, that's crazy. Like that gold medal game was crazy. I knew that we were going to be the heels going into that game because it was France and it's basically a home game for them. So I knew that they were going to be hot for France, for the French national team. And Wembyana, that kid is something special. He's something special.
That's another guy that's
And
going to put the league on notice next year, right? I feel like he's going
absolutely,
to have a revenge tour for sure.
absolutely,
Well, he had a great year this year too. Like he
Yeah.
had a great rookie season.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I feel like
Yeah.
to have this as his experience and to get a silver, I just think that it'll be there. So now I have the thing. So Manu Ginobili is the first player to ever get a tournament MVP, and he did it in 2004, and he deserved it because remember he beat us in the semifinals, and that's the year that LeBron got bronze. And then not awarded in 08, 12, or 16. Kevin Durant won it in 21, and now LeBron won it this year. So I just think that's interesting. That they
Wait,
just
let me just throw this in too.
Yeah.
Talk about the home game for France, right? I got a kick out of France booing the hell out of Embiid throughout the entire tournament. That was hysterical.
But I'm thankful
Right.
we had him because can you imagine if he was on that team? I'm not sure we win, right? I mean, like to have him stretch the floor with some of the other players that they had on that team, they would have been really dangerous. So I definitely think he was a difference maker, and I can understand why they were upset that he didn't play for their team because. And I thought that it's kind of funny because he kind of gave France no credit. He's like, they don't have a chance at winning gold. And then ultimately he has to beat them for gold, right? So, yeah, because that was also why I didn't want to play for Cameroon, right? So,
by the way, shout out to Bilal Koulibaly. He's going to start his second season with the Wizards with a silver medal.
yeah, so that's pretty cool. So,
oh, and shout out to Thibodeau, the head coach of the Wizards of the Mystics, who coached the women's team to a gold medal.
Yeah. He's now their GM, I believe, of the Mystics.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's the Mystics GM.
Yeah, but he was the assistant coach for the women's national team. So yeah, so it's happy to have some DMV love and stuff like that. All right,
Koulibaly needs to go to the Wizards front office and say, "See this around my neck? We can win more of these if you people get me some players on my team to play with,
right,
and stop trading them away."
Imagine.
Sorry, that's my 2-second rant about them. I'm sorry. Had to throw that in there.
It's a very credible rant.
I love it. This is great.
Yes, exactly. With that, I do want to bring in Casey and to talk about wrestling, but I know that before we do, Davey wanted to talk about his thoughts on breaking, which I already talked about. I love, and if you want to see my son do his best impression of it, you can check out my Instagram because he was a big time fan of breaking. But Davey, what are some of your thoughts?
I am first of all, whoever he was impressing, it had to have been better than Ray Gun. I think we'll get that out. Wouldn't have taken much. The bar's low, to be fair. Yeah.
Right.
But E Flat says in the chat, has Shaq ever crossed anybody up? Wemby's breaking ankles out there. This is true. I don't think I ever saw Shaq cross anybody up. I saw him do a lot of amazing stuff, but I don't think he's crossed anyone up before. So yeah, Wemby's a special talent. It's amazing stuff. But yeah, breaking was great. We talked about it. We teased it. We were all so excited to check it out and see what was going to happen. It was a really mysterious event. They kind of threw it in there, and slowly over time, people started finding out about it. And it's not coming back for the Los Angeles game, which I'm bummed about. I'm like,
that's such a miss. How did they decide the sports before even the previous one's over? Like, don't you need to see the returns of like what people liked? I don't understand why that had to be decided before.
It really blindsided me because like there was so much momentum from this, positive and negative. We already addressed the negative, but the positive was great too. Like it
looked like a party in the stands. Like I would buy a ticket for that. Fun. That looks like a great time.
Let me get into the particulars of this. So like, yeah, I mean. So the entirety of the breaking tournament, you had the B-boys and the B-girls. B-girls started first on Friday last week. The entire tournament was done in 4 hours, which is bananas. Like, imagine the World Cup, like the scale of the World Cup. You had 16, 32 teams, whatever it is, and you do the round robin. You do the knockout rounds, round of 16, you do the quarterfinals, you do the semifinals, you do the finals, you do the bronze medal game, and you do the gold medal game. And the whole thing is done in 4 hours. Like, that's just bananas. Like, that you can do that. But they did, and it was really action-packed. It was never a dull moment, except for the 1 hour they took between the qualifying rounds and the finals. But still, it was really amazing stuff. Like, they covered a lot.
I just had a thought hit me in my head. Seeing as though the Summer Olympics is going to be in LA in 2028, and I believe golf's coming back. It should be coming back. I'm very interested to see what venue
Oh, I have that.
holds.
They're going to Riviera Country Club.
I knew it. I
Isn't that
freaking
great?
knew it.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world, right? It's a great pick.
Because you either had Riviera Country Club or LA Country Club.
Mm-hmm.
But Riviera makes the most sense because Riviera is a very tough venue because they hold the Genesis Invitational every year, and it's a tough track. So that would be a great track to have to see who's the best golfer in the world is at a track like that. It's a beautiful course.
The first ever stadium hole in the 18th hole. So you have that bowl that kind of naturally just fits all the people like it's a stadium. That is going to be such a great backdrop.
Davey, if you've ever played EA Sports PGA Tour and played Riviera on there, it has that detail so perfectly made. It's so beautiful. Like every now and again, I'll play that tournament in my career mode. The only reason why I don't play it is because the fairways and the greens are not like tournament speed, so it's like hard to get the bounces and the spins right. But when I do play it and I play that 18th hole, I just stare at it. I'm just like, this is freaking amazing how this looks.
I had the privilege of attending a couple of Genesis Opens, and seeing that in person is fantastic. It's even better than it looks on TV. It's unbelievable. If any of you have a chance to get to LA and see an event at Riviera, please do it. Like it's unbelievable. It's a breathtaking experience. It's really good.
By the way, if anybody was watching and saw me react like this, I'm playing NCAA. I'm playing college football 25, and I just beat USC in their home with 12 seconds left on an 80-yard pass to my running back.
What team were you?
Terps.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that probably will happen someday.
Right.
Yeah, we were down by 3, and it was like third down. And I threw an 80-yard touchdown pass on a seam route to my running back, and he just took off and outran everybody to win.
Wow!
Yeah,
no,
56-52.
I totally could see that happening in the actual season someday, one of these days.
That's crazy.
They're in the same conference now, so it's totally gonna. I can totally see that.
That's so.
Congratulations! That's a big win. That's a huge win. Did you make the top 25 as a result of that win?
Well, we're already in the top 25. We're number 2 in the nation.
Dude, let's go! Let's go!
We're undefeated, and we're coming off back-to-back national championships.
I want to live in this world. I want to live in college football world.
Right.
That's great.
Well, I'm a starting quarterback. They signed me, and I'm sitting out here killing it. So what do you want?
Do you stream any of that, Champ, or you just golf?
Huh?
You stream any of the football or just golf?
I've streamed some of college football. I'm actually planning to stream Madden because I got early access, which starts Tuesday. So I might actually stream some Madden 25 when I get early access.
Oh my gosh.
I'll do the Champ command for people to go follow him over there. But I had a quick question going back to breaking for a second, David. And I know I needed Casey in here because I promised him that I wouldn't get him in after 10:30. It's already after 10:30. But does breaking have like a world championships? Is there anything outside of the Olympics? Is there an organizing body? Yeah.
I wouldn't have any real intel on that, but yes, they do have other championships, and apparently Reagan had won a few championships, which is again. I don't know how. I would love to know the circumstances of that because, like, I can't visualize that winning anything. But you know what? Maybe things were different in Australia. I don't know. But yes, they do have championships and things like that, world championships, national championships, and things of that caliber. I just want to point out 2 other matchups before I close with breaking. So yeah, the verticality, the freezing, that is hard. That is amazing. I don't know how they do that. On the women's side, I really loved what the energy and the enthusiasm that Ami and Nika brought to the table. Ami is from Japan. Nika is from Lithuania. And Lithuania came so close to winning their first gold medal of the games in that competition, but winning silver is still pretty dang cool. I know that 671 out of China was awesome. India out of Netherlands. That sounds confusing, but the name of the lady is India, and she's from the Netherlands. But Ami versus Nika, that felt. I'm sorry. 671 versus Nika. That felt like a gold medal match, but it happened to be in the semis. It was an impressive battle. just one, just everything you can do, I can do better. It was such a duel. It was great.
I love the
And
battle format though, that you're going head to head with somebody. I think that's such an
Yeah.
interesting energy that comes from that is different than a lot of other sports. And I do, speaking of big events, people need to go back and check out that bronze medal match for that Victor won for the US.
I was going to get to that too. Like, Victor versus Danny Dan. I mean, first of all, Victor versus Danny Dan in the semifinal. That was the other match that in the men's side on the B-boys, like that should have been the gold medal match. That was unreal. It was so exciting. Danny Dan had such charisma, and there were points I was rooting for Victor the whole way because Victor has a great story, and he's kind of like me. We both can kind of growing up with a large family. Like it's a very relatable story, but yeah, that was great. Like I was, you can gotta give it up for Danny Dan. These names like Danny Dan, Phil Wizard, Victor, Ami 671, like the names they had for the performers were phenomenal. Like this was great. It was just like, it sucks they're not gonna have this in the next one. Like it's really too bad. Danny Dan came really close. Danny Dan had a nice battle with Phil Wizard. The score won't indicate it. Phil Wizard won 23-4. The votes were 23-4, but it was closer than that. And you got to give Danny Dan so much credit, like doing France proud. But Phil Wizard for Canada getting it done. Shega Kicks for Japan was in the bronze medal. Victor did beat out Shega Kicks. Everybody had brought something different to the table. It was just such a fun event. Everyone had their unique style. The only thing you have to concern yourself with is were they doing repeat moves, but overall, just really fun. If you missed it, go catch the highlights, especially since it was so short. Like each battle was like at most maybe 90 seconds. Like it was really, really.
And shout out to YouTube. Like you can catch almost all the highlights of everything, on there, which is great. I do want to show one thing. Whenever I hear Victor, I think of one thing. I'm going to do a screen share real fast. And it's this guy from Sonic. And I just thought that's so fitting that's the representation from the United States. I've always loved this character. He's like the DJ guy, from, he's a villain in Sonic the Hedgehog. But his energy to me was very much Victor gave that energy, so I appreciated that. Victor's one of my favorite video game characters to play as. You can play as the Mario and Sonic go to the Olympics, actually, which is ironic enough, which is one of my son's favorite video games, which I still am angry that they did not make one for this Olympics, and I hope that they make one for LA in 4 years, because I think that was a big miss. Yeah, so lots of awesome stuff. I am going to switch to wrestling because I did promise Casey I would get to it. But Davey, thank you so much for covering all of this with us. It's been an awesome 2 weeks. I appreciate you coming on and co-hosting all these segments with us. Oh, interesting. Gil says governing body for breaking is the World Dance Sport Federation. So that's Gil on Facebook chiming in. I know a Gil on Facebook. Anyway, thank you, Gil, on that. But yeah, so Davey, let people know upcoming events that you might have on the Sandwich Show.
Oh yeah, so tomorrow we have a good friend of ours, and I think our good friend Steam Friend, right? So Steam Friend is a great part of the Twitch community. And you see him on supporting a lot of cool musicians on Twitch. So it'll be a great conversation. Someone who plays a little music himself, does Rocksmith, plays the Rocksmith bass, like the bass hero game. So he's got.
I've actually caught a Steam stream before, so I've seen him in chat, but that's very cool. That Rocksmith is really cool. I was super into Rock Band when I was a kid, and it's sort of similar but with professional instruments.
Yep. So that's what's happening tomorrow. And thanks, Gil. Good to see you again, and nice to see you too, champ. And keep that dynasty going. I mean, Nick Saban ain't got nothing on you, champ. That's great.
Well, I'm 7-0. We just hit #1, but now we got to go to the big house. We got to go to Ohio State.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
A college game day is assuredly going there, right? They got to go. They got to go to. Got to go to Ann Arbor. That's
we're going to Ohio. I said the big house, but I meant Ohio State. We're at Ohio State. We're at the Horseshoe. We're at the Horseshoe.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're going to Columbus. Yeah, for sure. And Lee Corso probably will be putting the Maryland Terp hat on and being
Yes.
on, right? Like,
Better be putting the Maryland Terp hat on. Fear the turtle. What the hell?
Awesome. Well, Davey, I appreciate it as always, and we'll definitely have to get you back on the show in the fall and when basketball and hockey and all the other sports get going again.
well, my pleasure. Take care, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. It's good to see you, have everybody here. Thank you, everyone.
Peace, David.
Great
Peace.
seeing you, Davey.
Take it easy. Take it easy, everybody.
Easy.
So yeah, that was great. With that, we're going to bring in Casey, and we're going to talk a little bit of wrestling. Gil, did you catch any of the wrestling action?
I did. I was very impressed with the especially the 5-time champion, the Cuban Milan Lopez, I think his name is. And I was very moved by what he did at the end. I'll let Casey or Champ explain the ritual, but basically he announced his retirement. There's a thing that wrestlers do when they do that.
Yes.
Amateur wrestlers.
Basically, so and it's also done on the professional wrestling level as well as part of, so like they do that as part of the story as well. Sometimes it's real, sometimes it's not. But what Mijan Lopez did after he won his 5th straight gold medal in the heavyweight Greco-Roman event, he took off his wrestling shoes and laid them in the middle of the mat. That is symbolic of saying that was his last ever Olympic match. He's done. It's over for him. He's been doing this for a very, very long time. And I think, in professional wrestling, when you retire, there's a saying that you go out on your back, meaning you lose. But in this instance, he's actually going out on top, being the only Olympian in the history of the Olympics to win the same event 5 in a row. Michael Phelps hasn't even done that. Michael Phelps is considered one of the most decorated swimmers in Olympic history. And he hasn't won a swimming event 5 in a row. But this gentleman, Lopez, did it in Greco-Roman wrestling 5 Olympics in a row. Unprecedented. I don't think it's going to be a long time, if ever, that anybody's going to be able to do that in any Olympic sport, regardless if it's winter or summer.
Yeah, it's 2 decades of dominance. So I just want to bring Casey in right here. People don't know Casey. He's I found Casey through the No Spots podcast. Skills, or through the PowerPoint Point podcast. I mean, and so I've gotten him to meet him in that community, and then I got to introduce him to Ken through the No Spots podcast. And it's great that the 2 big loves of Casey right here are hockey and wrestling. So I have both of them here live. He also does his own show on Twitch.tv called Titan Rising KM, where he does a lot of Pokemon playthroughs. He does a little bit of Snap. But he also does his own wrestling promotion on there, and it's kind of cool that he creates his entire storylines, and they do live broadcasts. And Casey, if I remember correctly, you had your big pay-per-view event, or your big
yeah, our WrestleMania equivalent show was this past Saturday.
How did that go?
It went fantastic. It was really nice to see the culmination of a story that we've been telling for about a year and 4 months or so. So getting to see that story come to fruition, and it's actually, I talked about it a little bit. I started writing that story at 14. I'm 32. Oh, wow. So I finally got to see something that I've invested a lot of my life in play out in some type of medium. I thought maybe one day I write a book or something, but to actually kind of get to see it was really awesome, and to get to see those final moments were great. You guys were talking. I want to just get into this while we're still on the subject. The gentleman that we were talking about in Greco, that Lopez that retired, we actually, in the men's freestyle at the 125 kilogram in the bronze medal match, both of the competitors retired together at the end of their bronze medal match.
That was dope. That was dope.
Yeah. So, a little bit about my just because you guys know me a lot for hockey. I've been on here for hockey. I've been on, thankfully, been on with Gil on the Power Play Point podcast talking hockey. I also coach high school wrestling, and I have a deep love that has kind of developed for this sport. And there's been a lot of talking points that have come out in the last few days. It depends really where you fall. This is the first time since 1968 that America hasn't gold medaled in men's freestyle. And a lot of people are saying that we're now behind the curve and behind the eight ball. And there's some argument that you could make that that might be the case for America. I really don't think it's the case. I think it's you're at the greatest stage with the greatest athletes in the sport from every country. And some days, no matter how good you are at wrestling, it's just not your day. And that happened for some of our guys. C4 was actually talking about at the 86 kilograms, Aaron Brooks that wrestled out of United States for us. He actually wrestled out of the Nittany Lions Wrestling Club, which is the Penn State group. He's a 4-time NCAA champion. That has only been completed by 7 other people in history to win 4 back-to-back NCAA championships. And he was like very heavily favored and took out arguably one of the greatest Olympians for America in wrestling to get his spot on the team. And he just, he ended up in the bronze medal. America had a rough tournament as far as men's freestyle. I'm really proud of our girls to get 3 medals in 6 weight classes, 2 being gold. Amit Allure and Sarah Hildebrandt are just amazing. To think that Sarah wasn't even going to be in these Olympics, wasn't even going to try to make it here, and then just happened that everything lined up for her, and for her to still compete is amazing. Greco is probably where I'm the weakest at when we have this conversation, just because freestyle lends itself more to the folk style that we see in high school wrestling, so I watch it a lot more. But man, Greco's so fun to watch. Those guys are so strong. And like, you can't attack a leg in Greco, so if you touch a leg, you're penalized. So you have to all upper body and throw. And it's a beautiful way of the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So I
was
want to
gonna
go
say.
back. Oh,
Yeah, I was
sorry.
gonna say Greco-Roman is such a unique style because it's all upper body, it's all about technique, and it's all about having the power in the upper body to be able to overpower your opponent. Whereas with freestyle, it's a more technical based style. One of the things that I noticed in a lot of the lot of freestyle matches is that a lot of these wrestlers will utilize a technique called the leg lace. Well, they'll tie the legs up, wrap them, hug the legs, and start gator rolling. And every roll, when their shoulders hit the mat, that's 2 points. You can rack up an easy 6 points if you can roll 3 times successfully, or you can end up, if you do 5 successful rolls and they haven't gotten any points, you can get easy technical superiority off of just that.
Yeah.
So that's what makes freestyle such a unique thing, as opposed to Greco-Roman, where it's just all upper body and things of that nature.
Parterre is actually in Greco-Roman. It's just where you can't utilize the legs. You have to do it from a gut wrench.
Yeah.
And that's significantly more difficult. The leg lace, like once you're caught, there's so much pressure that goes on your knees and your thighs. Like, there's been people who've tried to fight that have caused like serious damage to their upper leg because they tried to fight too hard in a parterre roll on a leg lace. Like Spencer Lee, America's silver medalist winner at 57 kilograms, has arguably the best leg lace in all of freestyle wrestling. Like, he is unreal.
Yeah.
Sarah Hildebrand used a really good leg lace as well.
Yeah. Spencer Lee, I mean, he's a different animal. If he's had a lot of negativity that's come out about him after the Olympics, because he was really upset that he won silver, and like kind of said that like the silver medal does not matter. He didn't win gold, and that's what he was there for. And that like he even made a statement that he didn't even know where a silver medal was. He thought like he gave it to his sister, and that he felt like he failed because he didn't bring home the gold. And like, people have been like really down about that, but like, Spencer Lee is a different breed, man. He won 3 high school state championships, lost in his 4th, won 3 NCAA championships, winning the 3rd with no ACLs, lost his 4th, and then this was his first showing for for the Olympics and Worlds. And I think there's got to be some consideration that if he sticks with it, he's going to be a multi-time gold medalist for America in the future.
I want to talk about Amit Elor.
Amit
She's
Allure.
Yeah, Meet Laura. She is incredible watching her just dominate at all levels. If people don't know, because maybe people don't follow the wrestling side of things, she was able to win the Cadet World Championships, the Junior World Championships 3 times, the Under 23 World Championships twice, the Pan American Championships, World Championships both in 22 and 23, and now the Olympic gold. I mean, just what a remarkable career for somebody who's like not even old enough to drink, right? She was born in 2004, right?
20 years old and 7 months. She's now officially the youngest gold medalist for American wrestling.
And
yeah.
it's a funny story about her, and I said this last week on this podcast, that she would have made her Olympic debut in Tokyo, except for the fact that the qualifiers for the United States team happened a day before she turned 18. If it had been the day she turned 18, she probably would have qualified in freestyle. But it was a day before she turned 18, and so she couldn't qualify, and that's why she missed Tokyo. So this was actually her Olympic debut this year, and she ended up at the age of 20 winning a gold medal in the 68 kilogram freestyle, and she looked absolutely spectacular. She has a very long career ahead. She has a very long run ahead of her when it comes to Olympic wrestling. I see at least 2 or 3 more gold medals in her future if she doesn't decide to go to either WWE or AEW.
I think at her age, and we were talking earlier about what they pay out for these Olympics. She won $250,000 for winning gold. And so she's going, like, I know from what I've heard, this is a continuation for her. At her age, I do think that we could see her get up for, I think she could maybe even tie Lopez, where she is so young, if she stays on the tear that she's on. And she's just, she might be one of the most talented female wrestlers I've ever seen.
Her defensive game is so incredible. Just basically a 1 point lead she could seem to hold on to, for the whole time. I mean, she just doesn't allow anything. It's just really remarkable. I haven't watched a ton of wrestling, but it's just from what I've seen, especially I watched all of her matches, just her defensive game was just incredible.
That was the story of the tournament, or of the whole Olympics, for Sarah Hildebrandt and Amit Allure, our 2 gold medalists. Their defensive game was unreal. I wish I could teach my wrestlers to sprawl like Sarah Hildebrandt. She looked like she was crushing their heads. And I'm like, yeah, that's how you win matches.
Yeah, they just cannot. When you think that you have an opportunity, even and they shoot for the leg, just the strength to be able to hold on, and it was a really remarkable thing to watch. It was
Shout out to Sarah Hildebrandt from here in the area.
yeah, it's true. It's another DMVer. So just a remarkable run for this area in the Olympics.
Speaking of which, there was another. I forget what category or weight class she was in, but Helen Maroulis.
Yeah.
Let's not forget about her. And thank God she didn't.
She got bronze in the 57 kilogram freestyle.
That was it. She was and in her semifinal match, I thought she was going to take it, but just fell short. But yeah, glad she ended up with the bronze and didn't follow the words of that REM song. Don't go back to Rockville without a gold medal, without a medal. But
shout out to Rockville, where I am in right now. So,
yeah, that's where she's from.
Yeah, so me too. So it's kind of cool. It's just a remarkable run for the US, and I'm so happy that we have both Casey and Champ to help break it down, because I honestly don't know if I would have followed it, and I'm so happy that I got to watch it live with you, Casey. I thought that was such a fun.
You watched me watch Sarah Hildebrandt win. I was live on stream.
I want to get Casey's thoughts on Japan pretty much owning the medal count in wrestling. They had the most overall medals and most gold medals.
What's mind-boggling about that, Champ? They brought 11 medals home with I think like only 14 people entered in this sport.
Yeah.
All but 3 of the people that they sent medaled. And I'm looking here. Let me look at the Greco-Roman. They won 2 of 6 Greco-Romans, 2 of 6 men's freestyle, and 4 women's freestyle gold medals. I mean, it's unreal. And there's a lot of people call this the asterisk Olympics because like Russia didn't compete or they refused to send their best guys. Um, like they didn't allow them to compete for whatever name that they were sending them under, because technically Russia was not like supposed to compete in this Olympics. It's I forget what name they come up with that they're technically allowed in under. But like the best Russians didn't show up, so people call this like the asterisk Olympics because like usually that's who goes back and forth with America. But oh my gosh, Japan. This is where I will go out and I will argue this to the death. This is where studying the tape and knowing the tendencies of your opponents in wrestling when you're in such a small field like this one, it's they proved why being a student of the game is the most important thing that you can do in a small field. But I mean, they also have I listened to a lot of mindset stuff, and I forget who it was that was talking about it, but they lived in just enjoyment of being in the moment. And that's something that like Penn State talks a lot about is like it doesn't matter if you're wrestling for bronze or if you're wrestling for silver or you're wrestling for gold or it's the opening round. Go out there and just love what you do. Don't go out there with the result I have to win. I need to put, I need to do this, because if you love what you're doing, you're going to win. And we talk to our kids all the time in the room. We tell them that don't don't fall in love with the destination, fall in love with the journey, because the one who loves the journey goes further than the one who loves the destination.
Hmm.
And that is something I really do believe Japan came in with this year.
I will say this: one of the things I think was a factor with Japan's success in wrestling. Um, One of the things I heard is that a former multiple-time IWGP heavyweight champion in New Japan, Yuji Nagata, usually trains a lot of the amateur wrestlers in Japan. And if anybody is going to be able to teach you some of those fundamentals of amateur wrestling, is someone who is one at the
Nagata's
highest level
unreal.
on the pro level, and Yuji Nagata, who's a legend in professional wrestling. So to learn from someone like that, I think would be a benefit to be able to go and be successful. And if that's the case, that he was the one that helped train some of these wrestlers, there's no wonder they came out of there, out of 14 members of that team, and 11 of them were going back home with medals. It's no surprise there.
Yeah, 100%. Like Nagata's unreal as far as just like his pure technique. And I think if I'm not mistaken, he does have amateur background. So
Yes.
like the fact that he trains and still does that, like one of the things that like always drew me to like New Japan's wrestling, which Robbie, I don't know if you've watched any of that at all. Just the way that they train is like they train specifically to take more punishment and be able to withstand it and continue than any other like pro wrestling training that you go through. Like, um, I'm trying to think who it was. I think it was Jay White was talking about that they would have them do like a neck stand where they would have their head down and their back arched with their stomachs facing up and their arms crossed over the chest, and they would hit them with cane poles.
Hmm.
And they were not allowed to like break under the pain. And like that's some of the stuff that like Japan wrestles through. Like even at the amateur level, they will wrestle through some of the worst looking situations. And I mean, there's so much. Their mindset is really 100% why I think they won it this year. Won so many
Casey,
in wrestling.
Casey, to that point, yeah, like the Noge dojo in New Japan is very tough. Like, matter of fact, they say that a lot of the wrestlers when they're young lions, they don't even hit the ring in front of a crowd until 2 years into their training. They sit in the dojo and they do 1,000 squats, push-ups, take all that punishment before they even get the chance to go into the ring and actually wrestle in front of a crowd. It takes them 2 years to get to that point. Then it takes them another 2 years of wrestling in front of crowds and wrestling not only each other, but there's what they call senpai, seniors, in matches before they even are considered graduated, and then they go on what's called a learning excursion, where they leave Japan and they go to another promotion overseas, whether it's in the UK with RevPro, or it's Mexico with CMLL or AAA or something like that, or Australia or anywhere else, or in the case of like Bolton Oleg right now, who just graduated as a young lion, is doing his excursion in New Japan. He just finished his debut G1 Climax tournament. G1 Climax is the biggest professional wrestling tournament in the world. It's a round robin tournament. He just finished at 4-5, 8 points. He won't wrestle his last match because his opponent dislocated his elbow on Saturday. That sucked, and still finished the match. By the way, that's how pain driven and how pain tolerant they are. That this kid dislocated his elbow and still finished the match, and then still sat in the ring and cut a promo afterwards before leaving. Before it was revealed he dislocated his elbow. So that's the type of training that these Japanese wrestlers go through, or anybody who goes to Japan and wants to be a part of New Japan, they go through that for a long time. But there's another point I wanted to make to Casey. I don't know if you saw it, Casey. Did you see that German suplex that girl did on that one girl? And they
Kennedy
had to take it
Blade.
to a hospital. Yeah, you saw that?
Yes. Kennedy Blade. She's another one of those like young up and coming wrestlers that she has. She's right at the same age as Amita Lore. So she's going to be on America's stage for a long time to be seen. But she hit the most beautiful German suplex, but right on the head of her opponent, which in freestyle, saying that your opponent does not get injured in that same situation, that gets you 5 points automatically because you go feet to back with a back exposure. And so one movement like that gets you 5 points out of a needed 10 if your opponent has 0.
Interesting.
But I mean, that was, to Champ's point, that was the most beautiful German suplex. Speaking of which, I'm actually wearing my free hug shirt, which is a German suplex.
Nice,
Oh, yeah.
nice. I love it. But, I thought it was really nice. It was just, it did look a little bit concerning because she kind of landed on her head a little bit, but it was really well executed. And little known fact, Casey, you probably don't know, is that I could have been an amateur wrestler. I actually tried out for my high school team as a senior when I transferred, and if I didn't have to do a night gym class to make sure I got the half credit to graduate, I would have done amateur wrestling. But because I had to do a night gym class, I couldn't commit to amateur wrestling. I couldn't commit to the wrestling team. But if I was able to, I would have done it. But I was a lot small. I was a lot smaller than I am now, though.
Casey, I know that you've got a busy day tomorrow, but I want you to be able to give your final thoughts on any of the things we've either talked about or anything else that you wanted to break down, or any promo that you wanted to cut for a future thing. I know that we've also talked about potentially even becoming a sponsor, possibly for your show.
Yeah, just if you've enjoyed the segment, you like professional wrestling, and you want something that's just kind of fun on Tuesday nights, that just not much going on, head on over to my channel, check out Titan of the Ring. Like I said, the VOD for Stairway to Stardom, which is our big show, is still up. There was a really cool hot video that led into the main event, so you can kind of see how everything went down. It was just the story that we told was two best friends from childhood, grew up, become wrestlers together, become tag champions a year ago, and just through the turmoil and the jealousy that can sometimes breed between alpha males, when they lost the tag titles, one guy ends up winning a championship, like one of the, as champion of this, a mid card title, before the other one has a chance to win a championship, and then the other one somehow gets a shot at the title, but the one that had won the championship, finds his way added to the belt, and it led to this like epic turn back in December, and that we continued to build to up until this past Saturday, where they finally got their hands on each other, and we just finished that story, and it was really awesome. And I think we got a lot of really cool stories and a lot of really cool characters. We try to have something that everybody can relate to, and if you ever have interest in having a character on the show, give me let me know, and we'll work that out. But yeah, come by, check us out, and I would love to have Sports on the Hill and to know what exactly is yours again,
No
champ.
spots, no spots
No
podcast.
spots podcast.
Yeah, would love to have you guys as pseudo sponsors, or not pseudo sponsors, but like sponsors on the show. We just really put up your logo and then talk about you all as if you did some big financial contribution to our imaginary world.
Yeah. So we give shout outs to both of our podcasts. That'd be awesome. So yeah, we should definitely talk more. And yeah, I mean, Casey, you're always welcome to come back and talk hockey and wrestling and stuff in the fall and other sports as well. I know you're excited about the Commanders, and yeah, it should be an interesting year coming up.
I'm just ready for some hockey.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it.
You're preaching to the choir, Casey. You
You're
are
right.
preaching to the choir, sir.
Yeah, the summer is.
I gotta ask Gil and Robbie. You think he breaks it this year?
I say it's going to be close, and he don't break it until 15, 20 games into next year.
Yeah,
that's my
fine.
expectation. Is
Yep.
he'll make it to the
I think
following.
he gets a 10 away, so I think he'll get maybe 30 this year.
He needs 41, 42. I say he gets 35, 36, something like that.
Yeah, I'm going 31, leaves the other 10 from the other side. So that's where, you know.
The OV goal counter is moving to its third room since I've been at my current school.
Nice.
My kids all know who Ovechkin is. They have no clue anything about hockey, but they know who Alex Ovechkin is.
And congrats, Casey, for passing your exams. That's awesome.
Oh, I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to teaching agriculture. I get to tell the students about my knee-deep poo stories and naming a cow, or naming a cow after my 6th grade crush, hoping that she would like me. Didn't realize that was as insulting as it is.
Hey, Casey, I really hope you stick with that. I've been down that road too. I kind of wish I stuck with it a lot longer than I actually did, but I hope you really stick with it, because you were talking about mindset earlier. I think you got a great mindset for that, because teaching is all about passing on the knowledge. And
I love it.
You know how to do that.
Yeah, I love it, and I'm looking forward to sticking with it. And between it and coaching, you find where you're meant to be, and it's just much like I used to say, hockey was a hole in my soul I didn't know I needed, and so were these.
Yep. I have to say, I'm with Gil. I taught for 4 years myself, and I miss it. I'm still looking for a path to get back there someday. So it's a very special thing to be able to help the next generation understand different things. And so yeah, hats off to you. So that's really cool. Teachers don't get enough credit for all the work that they put through. So I mean, my job is to sell what teachers do, but we can't do it without the teachers, right?
Oh, I got one other thing. I'm gonna throw this out because there's no way that we don't talk about Olympic wrestling and I don't give the shout out and say thank you to one of the greatest Olympians of all time, who has paved the way for so many and tragically lost his life doing what he loved. Every time I go on Gil's show or your show, I try to wear something that hypes up what we're talking about. I got to give a shout out to the Sly Fox, David Schultz, the man, the myth, the legend. He was the man that trained one of the men that trained Kurt Angle heading into the Olympics.
Wait. Is this Dr. D. David Schultz?
No.
No. Oh, the Olympic coach. Never mind. I know who you're talking about. The Olympic coach.
If you've never seen the movie Foxcatcher, it tells his story, but
yeah,
got to give a shout out to one of the greatest of all time. Deserves so much praise, and every time that the Olympics come up, you just gotta. I have to give out a shout. So, Sly Fox, I wear him to every wrestling tournament.
Interesting. I'm looking at the Foxcatcher So this movie is about this. Yeah, that's interesting.
If
Um,
you've only ever seen Steve Carell as a comedian, you're
mhm.
gonna be completely floored.
Oh wow, interesting.
And
And
Mark Ruffalo does not look like Mark Ruffalo.
yeah, I'm looking at this cast. This is a great movie. Anyway, I'll drop the Wikipedia link for anybody who's interested in the chat.
By the
Um,
way, shout out to Kyle Dake, wrestling with a heavy heart after losing his father and winning back another bronze medal. I really thought he was going to make the gold medal game, but he didn't make it in the semifinal. But he managed to win bronze in honor of his father, who had passed away a couple months ago. So good showing for him. I think he's due for a gold medal in LA.
You're showing me up so bad, champ. I can't believe I came on here and didn't talk about one of my favorites. We sit here and talk the whole time, and I forgot to bring up
Here's the
Kyle
funny thing,
Dake.
Casey. I got whole ass notes. You can't see it because the ring light. I have whole ass notes on this. But then you came in and outshined me, and I was like, well, I don't need these notes anymore.
But no, Kyle Dake is, if you've, him and Dave Taylor are two of my absolute favorites. But one last shout out, got to say this to the future of broadcasting and wrestling. Jordan Burroughs, the former Olympian for us that won in Rio, and just an absolute fantastic wrestler, did an amazing job on the call through the whole tournament.
He
He
really
called
did.
every match. And he said he was up at 3 a.m. and constantly studied. He studied every wrestler so that he knew how to talk about them and talk about their game. And if you don't know much about Jordan Burroughs, he is the king of the double leg. And he has like changed and revolutionized the double leg in wrestling.
hmm, interesting. Yeah, I don't know much about him, but that's cool. No, I thought the calls were great. So
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
He's fantastic. Him and Daniel Cormier commentated the NCAA championships this last year, and it was a blast to listen to.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
we think Jordan Burroughs is done, so it may just be him um, commentating moving forward. It breaks my heart to think that he's done, but he is 36, but he's a 5-time world champion and an Olympic bronze and Olympic gold and I think silver or bronze medalist. He's had so much success at the highest level, and it's just exciting. He did really good on the call. I'm sorry, I could sit here and talk about this for hours.
You're fine. You're fine. I invited you to do just that. So we are going.
I'm gonna have to get back into WWE and other stuff just so I can chat with you guys too. It's just been so long, and man, there's just so much product.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that Champ likes talking about New Japan and all the other ones too. So you can always chat it up about those as well. So we, it's exciting. It's an exciting time if you're a fan of wrestling for sure. So I appreciate having two knowledgeable guys help us break it down, and thank you guys for inspiring me. I liked wrestling as a kid. I have to say I took a big break from it, and now I'm watching Raw and SmackDown again. So that is something I didn't expect, but I've been really enjoying it. And shout out if people don't know, if you've got Hulu, you can watch it on Disney Plus. Which is kind of cool for watching SmackDown, which is helpful. So I was watching on Disney Plus earlier. So because for some reason my YouTube TV DVR last week's and like wouldn't DVR this week's, and so I was like, no, I missed it. And then, but if you have Disney Plus and you have Hulu, you can watch it there. So fun fact. But yeah, but that is moving, right, champ? SmackDown's moving soon.
SmackDown is going to be on the USA Network starting in September. NXT is moving to the CW in October, and they're actually doing 2 live shows outside of the Performance Center. One is going to be in Chicago on the day that they debut on the CW, and CM Punk's going to make an appearance. And then the very next week, they're going to be in St. Louis, and you can guess it, Randy Orton's going to make an appearance. So they're really trying to hype up moving to the CW. So they're going to be on broadcast TV with CW, and then SmackDown's going to be on USA. Raw's going to stay on USA through the end of the year, and then they're moving to Netflix in January.
Yeah,
I'm not
cool.
gonna lie to you. I look forward to the day that they're all under the Netflix umbrella and we're done with Peacock.
Yeah. We'll see if that happens because they just signed a pretty big deal to have all the stuff with Peacock. So, um, but you're right. Internationally, Netflix. So if you have a VPN, you could do just that soon. So, um, that'll be a way to definitely catch it. So, but Casey, thank you so much for. I know you stayed up extra late and you've been up since 4:30 in the morning. Big ups to you for powering through and giving us some great insights. So I really appreciate it.
I'm just happy to be on here and talk about, the sport I love. One of the many sports I love, but at least the one that I'm most active in now.
Right. Well, best of luck on the coaching side of things and obviously the teaching side. And we'll definitely have to get you back on more often.
Okay. Appreciate you guys. 4:30 comes early, so I'm gonna go get some sleep.
Yeah, yeah. Do
All
that.
right.
All right. Have a good
Good seeing
one.
you, brother.
All right. Champ, let's well, Gil, I'll let you choose. You want to stay through the wrestling talk or do you want to get out of here?
I gotta admit, when it comes to the professional side, I'm more than a bit of a lapsed fan. I know my way around. I'm familiar with AEW and of course WWE and NXT, but I'm probably what I could fill with the knowledge of what's going on now would be like an ant trying to fill an Olympic-sized pool by taking a pee. So, um, I'll politely pass on that, but I do want to thank you for having me on again and talking about some of the Olympics that went on. And I'm kind of like I got to say, I'm kind of like you. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was probably the best Olympiad ever, and I've seen a lot of them. And I hope the one in LA. I hope they really try to top it. I think they got a good shot at doing it, but it's going to take a big effort to do just that.
Yeah, I hope that we're still doing this podcast in 4 years and we get to cover it together. That would be something. And
That'd be awesome.
I'll put it this way, even if we're not doing the show weekly at this point, I'll still come back and probably do a special because the Olympics are so special to me.
They
Uh,
are.
I'm gonna try to cover as many of these as I can. But Gil, you've been great. I've enjoyed talking all the different sports with you. Definitely go check out the Power Play Point podcast. I'm gonna do the Gil command real quickly if anybody doesn't know, but you can definitely go check them out. Power Play Point podcast. Search it on Facebook. You can also search them on all podcast platforms. Their last two shows that they did with Janaea are fantastic. They'll be back in, I'm sure, sometime in late September, early October.
Right now the plan is to cover the first show is to cover at least the first game. The first game is late in the week, the second week of October. So we usually record the weekends on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday. So it'll probably be the second weekend in October where we do the first episode of the season.
We'll probably have Gil and Anna come on maybe the week before to preview that week and talk about their show again and remind us that their show will be back. Gil, appreciate it as always. Get some sleep and we'll talk to you in just a couple of months.
We'll do. We'll do. Thanks again. See you, champ.
Peace. Peace, peace.
All right. So, Champ, I actually watched SmackDown and Raw. I actually can talk to you about these different events. So that's kind of exciting. So obviously it started off on Raw last week with Randy Orton challenging Gunther for the WWE in the Bash of Berlin for that title. And I'm excited about that. I think it really creates a great sort of headlining. I know I gotta assume that's going to be the headline one, right? And the one with the KO that was just announced is going to be the one that's under that one, right? I feel like the Gunther in Germany's got to be the top billing of that. What are your thoughts?
So the great thing about Randy being I still call him Walter. I don't call him Gunther. I still call him Walter. That's the same thing with Sith. But I think that this is the ideal first challenge for Walter in his reign as world heavyweight champion because there's a story behind this. Now, for people who didn't see King and Queen of the Ring in Saudi Arabia, when Walter won the King of the Ring, Randy Orton's shoulders were clearly up when the 3 count was rendered. So they're leaning on that story to have a basis for why Randy Orton is challenging him for that championship because technically he didn't beat Randy Orton at King Queen in the Ring. He didn't beat him because his shoulder was up. So I like the fact that they're using that as a means to get Randy in there, especially because Randy's not even on Raw. He's on SmackDown. So it's the perfect way, and it's a story that has been addressed in the post show conference press conference as well. So it's not like people don't know it happened. We saw it happen, and it's been addressed. So it's a perfect way to bring Randy in there and stuff like that. So I really like the fact that it's Randy as his first challenger instead of, having him do some kind of qualifying thing and get some random person that would be nowhere near the championship otherwise to be his first challenger. This is a perfect first challenge. Randy Orton's been in the game for 20 plus years. He's a 14-time world champion. So a lot of people are going to be leaning on that and thinking that Randy is going to be the one that can conquer him in his first reign, but I don't see it happening. But I think it's going to be quite entertaining. I think it's going to be quite interesting. And I think the match is going to be really, really good.
Yeah, so it's they think of him as like the legend killer, right? He's always going after the John Cena's of the world and making a name for himself doing things like that. So I am excited. The next match did feature a German, sort of continuing the theme. Sheamus defeats Ludwig Kaiser, and Ludwig Kaiser I thought put together a great match as a heel, just a really interesting matchup, and Sheamus, I'm still impressed after all these years. He's been in wrestling for forever, it seems, and it was an interesting match to do right after that promo.
Well, the interesting thing about Sheamus is that a couple of years ago, he wasn't even sure if he was going to even continue his wrestling career. He had spinal stenosis, and it looked like his career was about to come to an end. But he came up with his own workouts, which he calls the Celtic workouts. Worked himself back to be able to get back in, and he's been putting on just bangers since he's been back. And he's had this rivalry with Ludwig Kaiser for the last several weeks, and they've absolutely put on really good matches. Pete Dunne's been in the mix because of the fact that after his matchup with Edge, before Edge left WWE and joined AEW back in the fall of last year, Sheamus was on the shelf with an injury to his shoulder and had to come back from that. And the storyline with that is that Pete Dunne felt like Sheamus abandoned him and Ridge Holland as the Brawling Brutes, and they had to go off on their own. And then Ridge Holland went off and went back to NXT and is now part of Chase U. And now Pete Dunne is just here all by himself. Well, no, he had a tag team partner with Tyler Bate, the New Cash Republic, but Bate recently just had surgery because he tore his bicep. And so he's out now. So now Pete Dunne is a man on an island. He's all alone. And so because of that, now they pivoted to now him going back after Sheamus, saying that Sheamus abandoned him and this, that, and the third. So now they're actually in a feud right now. So that's pretty interesting. But this match was really good. We actually talked about it on the podcast earlier that is going to go up on Tuesday evening. And it was a really, really good matchup. So really, really good way to continue on with that sort of storyline. But they're also pivoting towards Sheamus versus Pete Dunne.
That makes sense. Obviously, there's the fallout with the whole situation with Damian Priest and sort of his entire faction basically turning on him, and so it's him and Mommy versus the new Judgment Day. What are your thoughts on some of that?
So basically, SummerSlam saw many people thought they saw the implosion of the Judgment Day, but that wasn't the case. It was basically Finn Balor along with Dominic Mysterio ousting who are two of the original members of the Judgment Day. See, the Judgment Day started with Edge, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley, and they actually feuded with Finn Balor and whatever allies he could find before Finn Balor decided to join, and they ousted Edge, and then it began a rivalry with Edge and the Judgment Day. So they're the two of the original members of the Judgment Day. But now Finn has basically ousted them by turning on them and created a new Judgment Day with Carlito, with JD McDonough, Jordan Devlin, as we call him, Dom, and Liv Morgan, who's the current women's world champion after Liv Morgan basically got the man that she wanted. And I'm jealous, by the way. I'm just going to put that out there. But this is going to be a very intriguing storyline because Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley in real life are really tight. They're really tight friends. Of course, Rhea is married to AEW's Buddy Matthews, so their relationship is purely platonic. There's no romantic thing to it. They're purely really tight friends to the point that they've called themselves it's off screen the Terror Twins, and now that's what they're going to be called on screen is the Terror Twins. And so that's gonna be a really interesting dynamic there with them being 2 on 4 or 5 if you want to when you look at it. And so I can't wait to see how they advance the storyline and things like that. I was actually watching Raw live while we were doing this podcast, so I already know what's going to happen, what happened tonight, and how they advanced it. So I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to rewatch it tomorrow. But this storyline is going to be very, very intriguing, and I'm really, really looking forward to how it progresses.
Yep. And then there's obviously the CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and Seth Rollins storyline that continued after CM Punk and Drew McIntyre had a great match that was ref by Rollins. But obviously, CM Punk always gets so distracted by his own ego and tried to take out Seth Rollins, the official, and obviously lost his bracelet, and then Drew McIntyre, and so then basically a lot of puffing their chest out, we'll say that way, ensued, where CM Punk is basically chasing, Drew McIntyre around the building. And interesting how they progressed that storyline too. Keeping it in. I also, the New Day had a good match in the tag team. And then A Town Down Under, I thought was interesting that they appeared on the other brand, right? They're usually on SmackDown. They defeated Awesome Truth. It's kind of a miss by Truth on a tag when he shouldn't have. Gave A Town Down Under the win. And so it'll be interesting to see if him and Miz, how they react to that down the line as well. So those are some of the big storylines. But I'm sure Champ goes through it all, so I'm not going to have him comment on every part of the story. You definitely go check out the No Spots podcast for that. And then I actually liked Raw better this week than SmackDown, but I thought SmackDown was pretty interesting with obviously the bloodline, which was the ending and bringing that. So what were some of your thoughts on SmackDown?
Well, just a spoiler alert for people who haven't listened to the podcast yet, that the main event segment went with the return of Roman Reigns got a mega push because Roman Reigns came out and just does what he does best, which is wreck shop. Though he didn't leave, but he wrecked shop. He almost got his uh, necklace back, but they were able to get it back from him. But it was a really good segment because Roman didn't have to say a word. All he did was his music started playing. The crowd went absolutely ape shit. And it's crazy because he got the pop that Vince tried to get for him for 5 years when he was running creative, and in the time that he had been missing from SmackDown after losing the title to Cody at WrestleMania, he got that pop not once, but twice in a span of nearly 7 days. He got that pop when he made his surprise return at SummerSlam, and then when he made his return, his advertised return on SmackDown, he got that same pop, and it was absolutely great. Other parts of SmackDown, they had qualifier matches because they're trying to find number one contenders for the tag titles who are being held by the bloodline, even though Jacob Fatu is currently his timeline is unknown because he injured his foot when he did that splash on Cody Rhodes through the table at SummerSlam and legitimately hurt his foot. So the timeline for him is very much unknown, but it looks like they're trying to pivot to have Tangaloa be the other co-holder of that championship along with his brother Tama Tonga. So that's going to be an interesting development to keep an eye on if they're going to do the whole Freebird thing where Tama Tonga and Tangaloa can hold them because of the fact that Jacob Fatu is injured at the moment. But either way, I think it's interesting. And then they had the tag team qualifiers, DIY qualified, as well as the Street Profits. And then they had a U.S. Championship #1 contenders match, and Andrade had a chance to win it, but there was interference in the matchup, and it led to Santos Escobar winning. So now Santos Escobar, who came out before the match to talk trash to LA Knight who was in the ring celebrating his win, now they're going to face each other in a matchup somewhere down the line, most likely at Bash in Berlin, which is the next premium live event for WWE. That's going to probably happen there. And I think that SmackDown was actually like, like SmackDown didn't blow me away, at least, but SmackDown did do its part by not only following up on the fallout from SummerSlam, but also start to build up on those new storylines moving forward, including the potential of a second Bloodline Civil War with Roman Reigns leading the charge for whoever allies with him against Solo Sikoa and his bloodline.
Who do you think that is going to, I mean, that's the big question around the wrestling community. Who do you think is going to, find themselves allied with Roman Reigns?
Jimmy Uso is definitely one because he was ousted by Solo Sikoa in the new bloodline. Paul Heyman is going to be on the side of Roman Reigns because he said to Solo's face that he does not acknowledge him as his tribal chief. So Paul Heyman is going to be on Roman's side. But the question is because it's four of them and only one of Roman, and then Jay would be two, or Jimmy would be two. Will Jay Uso join that? Given the fact that under Roman he left Roman's bloodline and things like that. So it's a really serious question of who will side with Roman Reigns in the Civil War, because most likely this is
And
going to
he's
be
also on the Raw brand, right now.
exactly. But this is definitely a question to keep an eye on, because this is definitely going to be a matchup that's going to be a Survivor Series War Games match. This is definitely going to be a Survivor Series War Games match, but it'll be interesting to see what 3 or 4 other individuals he can get to join him in this war against Solo Sikoa and his bloodline.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. And then the last thing we sort of talked about it briefly earlier, it was interesting that KO didn't really want a chance at the championship, didn't feel like he deserved it, which is an interesting storyline. I feel like most of the people that want a championship, they are going after it and they demand it, and then the general managers allow for it or whatever. But I feel it's rare that the person doesn't want the opportunity. To do it. I just can't even remember a time like that. So I thought that was kind of a different twist on it, if you will. It'll be interesting to see if they can build that animosity towards that big, match, or maybe that's kind of why it'll be the secondary match and not the top build one. And I think that the one with Randy Orton will be that top build one, in Germany. But it'll be interesting to see, because this is the Universal Championship. It's supposed to be the biggest, you know, um, event. Do you see it as still being the headlining event, or do you think because KO is more hesitant that it will fall slightly lower on the schedule?
It's really hard to say, especially because of the fact that Walter and Orton is a pretty big money matchup, especially given the fact that Orton is a former 14-time world champion, and who went to another brand to challenge their world champion to a match because of what happened in the matchup that led to him winning that championship. So there's a very intriguing storyline, but it really depends on how they build this up, because like you said, KO didn't want it. He said he didn't want it. He didn't want it. He's been an ally, Cody, against the bloodline for the last couple of weeks, for the last month or so. And so it will definitely be interesting where they place on the card, whether they will be the main event or whether they'll be like the semi-main, or they'll be the middle of the card, or what have you. But honestly, like with the star power that Cody Rhodes has, I would not be surprised if this ends up being the main event. But I would also not be surprised if Walter versus Randy Orton does end up being the main event, because of the story of the whole shoulder being up thing. So it's just going to depend on how they build both of those championship matches up over the next couple of weeks leading into Bash in Berlin. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Walter versus Orton does main event, because of the fact that Walter, he actually built his name in Germany on the Indies building up Dub X Dub through his time in the Indies before he got signed to WWE. So my thought is that will probably be the main event because of the fact that that's pretty much Walter's second home is Germany. He's from Austria, but he built up his name in wrestling in Germany. So that has to be the main event most likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if they make the main event would be Cody versus KO.
Yeah, it'll just be interesting because I was reading before that Gunther was a big reason why they even have the Bash in Berlin in the first place was um, his popularity and wanting to have an event there, and so
Yeah, he
uh,
talked about in an interview that him and Ludwig Kaiser. That's the thing is that him and Ludwig Kaiser have been together for a long time, and actually teamed together in Germany, and they helped to build up Dub X Dub to the point where they're one of the most recognizable indie feds in Europe and in the world. And also to the point that they was able to create like a training school so that they can train the next generation of wrestlers from Germany to get out there in the world. So they are definitely catalysts to the point of bringing a big time event like a WWE Premium Live event to Germany. This is the first time that they're bringing a Premium Live event to Germany, and that's a big deal. And it's also part of the expansion that WWE has done over the last year or so of bringing Premium Live events to foreign nations. Early Earlier this year, they had their Elimination Chamber Premium Live event in Australia, and Rhea Ripley actually main evented that show because as the Women's World Champion because she is from Australia. And then they had Money in the Bank in Toronto. They had Backlash in France, and Backlash in France was my indicator of how lit these crowds were going to be for the Olympics, because it seems like when it comes to any sporting event, they show up and they show out, and they did it when they had Backlash in France in April, and then with the Olympics, they showed up and showed out and was absolutely electric. No matter what the sport was, it was even freaking table tennis, they had big cheers on points. It was big cheers because they were just so into just sporting events in general. So WWE is trying to do more international premium live events. They just came back from a tour of Japan recently, which they've done before, and so they're really showing that they're a global federation by doing all of this and everything like that. So yeah.
awesome. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how the next couple of weeks go. And obviously, when we come back in September, I'll have you recap how all the big events and it'll be a whole different world and a different landscape when we come back in the middle of September because a lot's going to happen over the next 3 or 4 weeks. But
Yeah.
I appreciate taking the time to do an extended wrestling. It's probably the longest wrestling segment we may have ever had on this show. But it was fun. I enjoyed breaking it down, and so thank you for sparking that fire in me and making me want to watch these shows again. And I appreciate that. And
One thing you got to note, Robbie, back in the late 2000s, I actually took a break from watching wrestling for a while because around like 2009, 2010, because I started going out doing karaoke and not watching Raw and SmackDown and stuff like that. So I actually took a break for like a year or two. And what brought me back was The Rock returned when he returned for the first time in 2011 when he hosted that year's WrestleMania. And my point is that you could take as long of a break from wrestling as you can, but when you find that one thing to bring you back, you're gonna come back and you're gonna stay. And
yeah,
that's what happened with me. When The Rock came back in 2011, I've been here ever since. So that was 13 years ago, almost over 13 years ago, actually. And I've been back ever since. So it's okay to take a break from wrestling, especially if it doesn't, if you're not enjoying it, if it feels stale to you. It's great to take a break, take a step back from it, and do something else, watch something else, and things like that. But there's going to be something that's going to bring you back. For me, it was The Rock. For you, it was me.
right. Well, I love the fact that it can also be on YouTube TV and Hulu and on Netflix, and you have the opportunity to watch it, you know, not at home, I can listen to it while I'm working, and watch it that. Yeah, so there's more opportunities now than ever before to get some of this content, even if you can't watch it in real time. Because that was the problem is like, on Monday nights I'm doing this show, so it's hard to catch Raw, right? And then on Friday nights, I'm often having to watch the kids solo, just because Liz works those nights, so that's also difficult, right? But if you can go back and watch them, the next day or even a week later or whatever, it changes things a little bit. So,
I need to find out if Jess still has her Netflix account, because if she still has her Netflix account, I'm definitely gonna be using that when Raw moves to Netflix the next year. If
yeah,
she
for sure.
doesn't, then I'm gonna have to invest in it.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting. All right, we're gonna rate somebody a little bit different tonight. I have a friend of mine, Ghostly Miko. They're doing a role playing stream. I thought because
Oh,
we
we're
just
skipping DMV talk, DMV sports talk. We're skipping
oh,
that.
DMV Sports Talk. Oh man, it's already 11:42. I hadn't really thought about that. You're right. So, quick
I'll be
update.
quick on these. I'll be quick.
Okay.
We'll be quick.
Why don't you give me your quick Commander's thoughts, and then I will look up the stats for the baseball and let people know about where we're standing right now.
Right. So Commanders had their preseason game number one against the Jets. They lost on a last second field goal, 20-17, but they looked really impressive. Even some of the reserves looked really good. Uh, Daniels, in his first drive as an NFL player, went 2 for 3 for 45 yards, including a beautiful dime to De'Ami Brown with the defender absolutely draped on him. Still managed to get it right into his hands for a beautiful pass. And then also on a beautiful read option, score from 3 yards out to score his first rushing touchdown as a professional football player. And then did the greatest thing you could think about, which is find his mom in the stands and throw her the football and say, "Here you go, mom." And so he only played one series, but he looked really, really poised. He looked really, really prepared. Like he knows the playbook, he knows the plays, he knows his reads and things like that. He looked really good. Brian Robinson looked good. Austin Eckler was able to contribute a little bit down in the red zone, which led to the read option touchdown. Some of the other quarterbacks did good. The one negative that I have to say about this preseason game was Emmanuel Forbes, who was our first round pick last year, got beat on not one but two big chunk plays, including a touchdown pass in this game. And it makes me worry because this young man came out with a lot of hype as the man who currently holds the record for FBS for pick sixes in a career, but yet he has struggled since being drafted. And now he's in his second year and in a preseason game against guys who are probably going to be bagging groceries when this is all said and done. And he's getting beat on two big chunk plays. That is very, very concerning to me. And that's probably why he didn't start this game, because of that. So they're going to really have to figure that out with this kid, that why he's getting beat like this, and figure it out fast, because this defense looks like it's going to be pretty formidable. Yes, they lost 20-17, but this defense looked really good. And also,
I have a question. What are your thoughts on our offensive line? Because from people that are at these practices and at the training camps and stuff like that, they're saying our offensive line is looking very suspect. What was your thoughts on that?
I don't recall them giving up any sacks in this game,
Yeah,
so I don't think they're suspect.
yeah.
Like if
But I
they
also
were
heard
suspect,
that.
they would have gave up a couple sacks in this game. I didn't see them give up a single sack.
Yeah, I heard that the Jets also like sat down 23 players or something and they didn't play. So it's hard to
Doesn't
know.
matter. Doesn't matter. They're all still professional football players at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so if that offensive line, which the first series offensive, the first team offensive line, I think only played maybe one or two series, they still didn't give up any sacks. And then the backups didn't give up any sacks. So I think our offensive line is fine, but this is only one game. So we can't really take a proper temperature of how this offensive line is going to perform in a 17 game season when it comes down to when it counts. So right now, they looked fine in this game, but let's see how they do when they have to play first team defenders week in and week out. And then we could say if they're suspect or not. People are just, oh, Robbie, this fan base is just gloom and doom. We've known this for years. I've been on this podcast for 6 years now. We know that this fan base is gloom and doom. You can't give them nice things because they're going to find something negative about it. We literally look like we have a quarterback who is going to perform at a very high level with very good weapons at wide receiver and a dual backfield of Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. This
Right.
could be a
I'm
very
excited
good
because
year for this team, but everybody's going to want to look at the negative. That's the problem with this fan base. They want to look at the negative and not the positives. And
I
that's
do
why
like
we're
that
never going to succeed.
they ran the ball, and then because they were so committed to the run, that it opened up the option for the quarterback, sneaking around on the outside. So, more of that would be great, because I think that it's what we should have done with RG3, but it all fell apart, right? So
The thing about the option is definitely more of a college play because, like I said, I told you earlier, I'm playing college football 25, and when you do practices, when you do the Road to Glory, which is the dynasty mode, like they actually have a practice option called option attack, where you're literally just doing all option plays, whether it's triple option, speed option, read option, all that other stuff and things like that. So it's more of a college play. So it usually doesn't translate to the pros unless you have a good mobile quarterback and a good running game to be able to execute it. And we have a pretty decent running game. And because of the fact we ran so much in the red zone, it set up that read option perfectly for Daniels to get into the end zone untouched. Even with the cornerback coming in, but he came in at an angle that with Daniels going this way, he couldn't get to Daniels, and Daniels was able to come in untouched. So when you have a good running game and you have a mobile quarterback, the read option is a really good play to have, even at this level. And I think that if Washington can incorporate that into their offense, not just the read option, but even the speed option or the triple option, just the option game in general, not RPO, but just the option game in general, I think that they're going to be a team that defenses are going to have a tough time scheming against because of that wrinkle in their offense.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting to see. All right, we're gonna switch gears real quick, and talk a little bit of baseball.
I got notes on that too.
Okay, we're gonna talk Orioles first, but then you probably have notes for Nationals, right?
I do.
Yeah. So I'll talk about the Orioles real quick. They had two big series last week. One was at Toronto. They lost the first game 5-2, and the last game 7-6. They did win the middle one 7-3. Then they went to Tampa Bay. They were able to win the first two 4-1, 7-5. They did lose the last one 2-1. They had no game today. They started a 2-game series versus Washington. This one will be up in Baltimore, Camden Yards, both 6:35 on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then they have a 4-game series Thursday through Sunday at Boston, 6:35, 7:05, 7:05, and then 1:35, and then after that they'll play at the Mets, and then Houston at home in Baltimore, and then to the Dodgers, and then at Colorado to finish off this month. They are currently 70-49, which I believe is number one in the division, but I'm just double checking that.
They are tied for first in the division with the Yankees.
I think that they have one less loss than the Yankees, so they both have 70 wins. So, but according to this, but either way, they're very close to being at the top or right up there. So, 8 games above Boston at 62, and yeah, it was for such a good division. It's interesting that only two teams might make the playoffs. Like a year ago, it was kind of the division to beat, and so right now Cleveland also has 70-49. So the top two teams in the AL both at 70 wins. The Yankees also have 70 wins, and Houston is leading their division with 63. Minnesota and Kansas City are the other two teams holding the wild card right now. And Champ, why don't you give your thoughts on the Nationals?
Right. So the Nationals had a pretty interesting week. They've actually been on a 10-game homestand that ended this past weekend. They went 5-5 on their current homestand. They actually won 2 out of 3 in their recent series against the Angels. And those 2 wins that they had were extra inning walk-offs. And those walk-offs were from players who are newly raised up to the team. So really, I'm starting to buy into this rebuild of the Nationals. I know Carol mentioned it a couple weeks ago after San Diego came in and no hit them, and I said they were ass. But he said this it's a rebuild. And now I'm seeing the rebuild when they have younger players coming in and getting walk-offs on extra innings against the Angels. Um, their lone series loss against the Angels on Sunday, uh, Garrett, the pitcher Mackenzie Gore, gave up 6 walks. He had 6 walks in 4 innings. That's not good. Now I know that I play a video game. I play MLB The Show 24. I've given up 6 walks in a season like a couple of times, but never won 6 walks in a single game. So that shows that his control, he's having problem with control and command of his pitches to give up that many walks in only 4 innings of work. Um, Also, they faced the Giants in a series as well during this past week, and they lost 3 out of 4 to the Giants. So they're struggling. As you mentioned earlier, they have a 2-game series against Baltimore, who's up there at the top of the NL East. So it's going to be a very interesting Beltway series for them. But if they're going to continue to have this rebuild, they're going to have to win some of these games. And this is going to be a game this is going to be a series that's going to be very testing for them, being in Baltimore, facing a team that's at the top of their division and really playing well. So they're really going to have to do something really, really solid if they're going to, they're still technically kind of in the hunt for a playoff spot in the NL. So if they can go out there and start putting together some wins and putting together some really good performances, we could be talking about the Nats in the playoffs, maybe. But it has to start with at least showing a good showing against a very good team in the Orioles.
Yeah, so the issue is the Nets are only 8 games back of a wild card spot, which isn't that far. The problem is the number of teams they have to jump. They have to jump the Mets, San Francisco, St. Louis, the Cubs, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh, and one of the following Arizona, San Diego, or Atlanta to get into that spot. So, I mean, that's a lot of teams to jump. It's not a lot of games, but a lot of those teams are going to play each other. And so it's just difficult to try to when you have that many teams in front of you. I always tell people it's not about the games back you are, but sometimes about the sheer number of hurdles you have to jump, right? So,
Exactly.
uh, so that'll be interesting. Nonetheless, the other one, soccer has not come back yet. They're still doing their break, but unfortunately, DC United is towards the bottom of their table. They're at 13th place right now. But
I actually
again,
have notes on that as well.
okay, go for it.
So right now, currently in soccer, they're in the midst of the Leagues Cup. DC United was part of the Leagues Cup. They made it to the knockout phase after getting out of the round robin phase, but they lost in the quarterfinals 2-1 to Macedonian. So that's why they're just sitting around and chilling. Their next match is not until August the 24th, which is 12 days from the day we are recording this. So they have a lot of time to just sit and stew on losing in early on in the knockout phase. They currently sit 13th in the conference standings, but they're only 2 points out of the playoff position, with Atlanta being in the position that they need to be in the playoffs, where they will play in a play-in in the MLS tournament, MLS Cup playoffs. So they're not far back, but one of the things that I preached about this, and I'll continue to preach, is that they can't continue to have games where they have draws, losses, draws, losses. They have to get wins. They have to get those 3 points. Those 3 points are going to be very, very crucial down the stretch here. 1 point's not going to do it, especially when you're 2 points down. And the crazy thing is, when it comes to Atlanta, who they need to catch to get that playoff spot, they don't play Atlanta at all the rest of the season. So it's not like they can go up against Atlanta United and try to beat them to try to have that tie break. They don't play Atlanta anymore. So they have to beat all the teams they need to play the rest of the season, and hope that Atlanta kind of falters a little bit in order to try to get into that playoff spot. But they're not far off. But it's just like you said, when it came to the Nationals, they have a few teams they need to hurdle over in order to get to that playoff spot. So they have a lot of work to do. But they
Yeah,
still have a lot of time, but they have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, they have to still jump Nashville, Montreal, and Philly and Atlanta to get into that ninth spot, and then they get to basically do a play-in at that point. So,
Exactly.
um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all goes. But I'm gonna put up your graphic again and also do your command. But yeah, if you want more wrestling and more sports talk, definitely go check out the No Spots podcast. He might also be streaming some video games on that channel as well, whether it be golf or football. And have you ever thought about doing something like what Casey does, where with the wrestling, where you make your own promotion within the what's it called? It's the WWE video game. I'm drawing a blank on it, but
Oh, you mean WWE 2K24? Or
yeah,
no. I've so here's my thing about that because I used to do commentary for a creative wrestling or fed for a while, and I know the work that goes into doing something like that. It's a lot of work, and I'm gonna be completely 100% honest. I'm too lazy for all that.
yeah.
I'm too lazy to sit there and create characters and do all of that and simulate matches. I just I just can't. I just can't. So that's why I stick to games like football and golf and baseball and stuff like that because I've already created my character. I just go out and play. But I will try to make it a point this week to stream some Madden 25 since I'll have early access just so people can get a first look at how the game plays and how the game looks before it comes out on August the 16th and stuff like that. So that's something I'm definitely going to try to do this week before the release date because I want not only do I want to show off how it looks, but I want to see how it looks as well. And so I'm really excited. I'm really glad that I bought the big bundle of college football to be able to get Madden 25 because I've already worn out the free trial of Madden 24 to the point that my in my superstar mode, my quarterback was somewhat forced to retire after 7 seasons in the NFL, which makes zero sense. After winning 3 or 4 straight Super Bowls and 3 or 4 straight Super Bowl MVPs, I originally was going to go into free agency. I was going to get signed by the Commanders. Then I ended up going to get signed by the Bears. Then they said, "Oh no, you're going to retire." And now I can't even load it up anymore. So I'm like, "Well, I'm glad 25 is coming out pretty soon because then I can take my player from college football and export him there, and then do it on there." So
Oh
I'm
yeah,
probably
that's
going to try to do that. I'm going to probably try to do that this week before it comes out, so that way we everybody can get a nice little first look at how the game looks, how the game plays, and things like that. I'm really excited about it.
sounds good. All right. Oh, Peter the Mighty Mod has joined in and they've subscribed for 14 months. I can't believe Peter is still awake. It is 5 in the morning. Yes. So it's nice to have another mod show up. And we're actually just about to rate out, but I really appreciate the reset, bud. And we've just hit the reset. Last month, we got 70 subs on the channel, which was an all-time high. Thanks to Peter for a lot of the gifts, that got us to that. And so I really appreciate all the love and support that everyone has given us. And the new software using the multi-stream has worked out pretty well. So I appreciate everyone for watching across all the different platforms. And yeah, we're going to add an intro video and we're going to update some of our graphics and do a couple of new things coming up here that I'll try to build out before we come back. We'll again be back the week after Labor Day. So a little bit of a break for a couple of weeks. So we will be off on the 19th, then the 26th, and the 2nd. And we'll be back on the 9th to recap the first Commanders game of the season. So that'll be fun. And yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in and being a part of this awesome show. I really appreciate it. Whether you're on Kick or YouTube or Facebook Live or listening to the audio podcast after the fact, I really appreciate everybody for tuning in. I am going to start a raid over. No problem. Peter's saying that he would have. I missed the notification. I've been here earlier. Yeah, no, the VOD will stay up. We had Davey on earlier. We had Casey on talking wrestling, and C4 was great, and Gil was great as well. So a really wonderful podcast. Here is the raid call and the sub raid as well. We're going to go over to Ghostly Miko as we were talking about creating these playthroughs. They're actually doing a playthrough in Grand Theft Auto 5. And so we can see them role play that. They were a huge help on helping our friend Adrian Ace Caltor get over to affiliate. So I wanted to return the favor and raid them since they were so helpful a couple of, I guess, months ago now at this point. But thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll be back again September 9th. You can always check out Sports on the Hill podcast on Facebook for all the latest news. And again, go to the podcast partners button, check out Champ's latest podcast. He'll keep us updated on wrestling over the next couple of weeks as well. Champ, any final thoughts before we go?
Just have a good one. Have a good week. Okigenyo, sayonara. And this college football stadium pulse is so annoying.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, everyone. We're going to rate over now. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.